Now, help me out, Blaster. Transform and play something nice.
And now, a nice and nifty musical selection for easy listening. Hold on to your dancing shoes and go, man, go!
One shall stand, one shall fall.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to One Shall Stand, One Shall Fall, a Transformers TCG podcast broadcasting live from an underground bunker in the middle of the murky Midlands.
I want to boot some Decepticon right in his turbocharger.
Whoa. Calm down, Cliff Jumper. Wow. Seriously, put that gun down. You're going to kill somebody in this studio. Goodness. Right, anyway, I'm your host, Lee, from Blue Top Productions, and today I have a motley crew of people to talk everything about Transformers TCG. That's right, the trading card game based on the cartoon from the 80s. This podcast will talk about news about the Transformers the TCG, new releases, deck profiles, and stuff that's happening in the community. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy.
One shall stand, one shall fall.
What's up, guys, and welcome to One Shall Stand, One Shall Fall, the one and only... That's right, Transformers TCG podcast here on the internet. This is episode 22. Man, it feels good playing Taylor Swift right at the beginning. I'm just saying it's 22. Guys, we've survived. Dave and me have survived the wasteland. Let's just say we went through the radiation. I didn't grow any hands. Did you grow anything? Did you get any super strength or anything, Dave, from the tactical nuke, which was World Strike?
Tactical nuke incoming!
No, just some more white hair.
Just white hair. Okay.
Just white hair.
So Dave got white hair. I got nothing. I had a case of vomiting, but I think that was just because I wasn't used to running a marathon. But guys, I'm so excited for this episode because, as you know, we have just spent like the last 3 episodes dissecting and showcasing the World Strike set from the Bayformers. And today, guys, we have one of the heads of the hydra from the Bayformers in Adam Edgmond. Adam, how you doing, buddy?
I am doing excellently. How's everybody doing on your side?
I'm surviving. Dave, are you surviving? You good?
Spiffing. Brilliant. Spiffing.
It's
spiffing. I am good. It's Saturday night. Yeah, good. It's a real honor to have Adam on because you're from San Francisco, aren't you?
Yes, I am from the West Coast. I think a lot of people seem to think that San Francisco is like this sunny palm trees, 90 degrees shorts weather, and really I think most of the year it's just about 65 degrees Fahrenheit and cold and people shivering on the Golden Gate Bridge and
I've been there. I remember we were in like one day we were in San Diego and we were like shorts and t-shirts. Oh, California's amazing. It's lovely. Went to San Fran and then literally shivering.
Yes.
just so we went to Alcatraz. It's like the coldest place I've ever been in my life.
Definitely. And if you go to Alcatraz and the wind's blowing, 30 miles per hour, full blast from the north, and just driving across the bridge, mostly what you see is a bunch of shivering little legs in shorts and people miserable. They picked San Francisco as a place to go in California.
It is incredibly beautiful, though, San Francisco. I will let everyone know, if you haven't been to San Fran, you should go. It reminds me a lot of Lincolnshire, Dave, just because it's very hilly. Like, everywhere you go is like...
Lincolnshire, but not crap.
Lincolnshire, but not crap. Yeah, exactly. I don't... Actually, that's pretty harsh. If anyone's listening from Lincolnshire to this podcast, I've lived in Lincolnshire. I thought it was lovely. It reminded me a lot of America. You just needed a car.
Mate.
Like, that's the problem with Lincolnshire. You just need a car because everything is so far apart. But it's awesome.
I live in Devon, so I can't really complain. Like we got loads of hills here, so...
It is true. I ain't gonna lie with that. Last time I visited you guys, I was like, this is really pretty. And then at certain points I was like, gosh darn, that's a really increasing hill slowly but surely. But no, it's
My flat is on a hill, like a 30-degree hill, and most of the people that walk by are tourists, and it does sound like various fuel-driven engines that are driving, just sort of driving by with people trying to climb up the hill, just breathing really hard and going, why would anybody ever build houses on these hills? And I'm like, it's good for the glutes, and it's good for the glutes, and it's good for the legs. So yeah, if you're into a workout, then it's the place to be.
What's that street? What's that street? The really windy, was it Lombard Street?
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, that was a steep hill.
Oh yeah.
No, I loved it. I had a great time there, man. It's a beautiful place. Alcatraz, like nothing else I've ever seen. So spooky, like really, really freaky. Yeah, we had a blast. We were there. Oh god, it's over 10 years ago, but I had a fantastic time in San Francisco.
Yeah, I've never seen Sean Connery or Nicolas Cage on the island, surprisingly. But I keep hearing,
Welcome to the Rock.
There we go. We'll just drop the clip in right there. There's the clip. The clip is in. The clip will definitely be in. But Adam, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. Obviously, while we're recording this, your World Strike tournament's going on right now. So this is kind of like a fun, hey, let's talk about your wave, and then also at some point, let's talk about your tournament scene and what's going on there, because it seems to be, everything's rising really well for you guys at the moment.
Yeah, it's a busy day, it's a busy time, and it's this is sort of what we were looking forward to after all the long hard work that we did working on World Strike, and we were anticipating, and now we're in it, and. Once again, it's not just the stops on the journey, it's also what lies ahead, and this is definitely not the end of the journey. This is actually the beginning of a very long and sometimes tedious and excruciating process, but it all leads to great things.
Awesome sauce. Right, okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get straight into it. So Adam, like we do with most of our guests, we just want a little bit of a background, if people don't know or they've been living under a rock, what is the Bayformers? Who does it consist of? Because I believe it's an Illuminati of people, that live in the San Fran area. And then just tell us how you started playing Transformers and stuff, because that seems to always be the decent icebreaker, isn't it, Dave? On this episode, is how did you get addicted to this game? That's the main thing. So take it away, Adam.
Just speaking a little bit about the community that's out here. Some of the people that are sort of associated with Team Bayformers, but aren't directly participating in it, just sort of part of the scene that Team Bayformers sort of emerged from. They'd been playing in area friendly neighborhood game stores, starting with Wave 1. So there was just sort of this little network of 6 different stores that started playing the game, slowly started supporting it. For my part, I didn't really start playing the game until right around the end of Wave 1, start of Wave 2. I've been a huge Transformers fan for most of my life. Collected them. I was playing them back in '84 when the cards first came, or the toys first came out. I think my first Transformer was Smokescreen, and lots of love for little blue-red car, number 38. Was a little underwhelmed by his character card, but hopefully we can rectify that in the future. Started playing Wave 2 because I was really into combiners. When the wave itself came out, people seemed pretty disappointed about the power level in Wave 2 compared to Wave 1, but for me it was entirely new, and so I had the starry-eyed love for Superion, played a lot of Superion during Wave 2, just the whole thing of I will block your damage and also shoot you in the face. That's awesome and great. And I will also combine at the end of the game and just punch the crap out of you. That really appeals to me. That sort of gameplay. And then more people started coming on board, and we started making more of a presence, at least as far as the competitive scene was concerned, right around the time of Wave 3, Wave 4, the run up to the ENERGON Invitational. Definitely some more well-known people in the team, like David Burgos, originator of Burgos Bold. Some people say he ruined the meta. I say he innovated the meta and also made my life as a blue player a living hell in lots of different ways. You could see probably some of the some of the items in World Strike being directly influenced by some of our shared experience in playing the game for that long. But yeah, we've been playing Presence of the community for quite a while. Like I think that while the game was still being printed by Hasbro, I think we weren't necessarily the most high profile group in the community, but we were definitely people in the know knew. And it seems like the opportunity to make our own content and sort of flex our own skills and abilities in this sort of new landscape of the Transformers TCG became present at that point. And we're happy to be here, and I assume that we will continue to be a presence going forward in the community and helping to help it thrive.
Some source. Dave, you got any other questions before I can start drilling Adam about some of the funness in this set? I'm gonna grill him with some of the stuff.
Yeah,
exactly. We're gonna implant some things.
So just obviously you obviously all started like playing face to face in that. So you've really adapted, haven't you, to the sort of COVID world we live in at the moment. And like I'm part of your Discord community. You've got a really thriving Discord group now as well, haven't you? So I'd say like 99% of the time, if you want to play a game of Transformers TCG, Bayformers Discord is somewhere to go.
Yeah, I personally have been really impressed as far as the growth of the community in the very few short months that the Discord has been up. I think I just launched the Discord one day as just sort of a launching point, sort of a collaboration space for the people that were working directly on World Strike in the early days, and then it just sort of grew really organically into sort of a thriving player community, and I'm really touched and honored and just tickled pink by where it is now. I definitely didn't anticipate that in the beginning. I was assuming in the beginning when this all began that I would say the community would have been continued to be active on other community servers like the main TFTCG server, but things have changed in that time, and I'm just happy to help provide another outlet for people to really enjoy and play the game and talk and share their interests and talk about other things outside of TFTCG. Really pleased, and I would not have expected that from the beginning for sure.
No, it's really, really thriving. Like it's not just obviously yourselves on there, like the Bayformers. You've got like other content creators on there, obviously like myself, and Lee's on there, but you've also got like Matafa from the Ark, you've got Eddie Santos who's working on his own stuff, you've got Hawk, you've got Tank Hunter, there's people that are actively doing stuff in the community that may or may not be affiliated to the server, but it's all welcomed in your server as well, which I really love. Like it just feels like a big happy family, so that's definitely something I think is to be commended. It's a really, really friendly server, and I love it. And some of the memes, man, are just to make me die.
Is it Mos Eisley, the bar, where there's just loads of different aliens and creators all in one
that's what
place?
it feels like.
That's what it feels like. I'm just waiting for one guy to turn around and it's like, this guy doesn't like you that much. I'm just waiting for that like one guy.
It's a little bit like Babylon, right? It's a little bit like Babylon where everybody's sort of speaking their own language. Yeah. And, some of the people are, sort of, looking at each other and nodding like they understand each other, but there are definitely always a few people on the outskirts kind of just going, what in tarnation is this person spouting about?
I can gladly say, I'm like, what have I got myself into?
Yeah, and sometimes it leaks out, and sometimes it becomes a meme in the larger community. But that's part of the environment in the organization. We try not to take ourselves too seriously at any given moment, because I just think that's a better, that's a better way to stand as far as the community-led effort. Just try, if I had to highlight some bullets as far as our sort of community strategy and our philosophy, I would just say, communities first. To your point about talking about all of these other card creators in the in the server, we all make each other stronger, And that's something we usually talk a lot about, where new creators might come in, they might have ideas. We usually have feedback just because a lot of us have done this already, and we try to be supportive and also provide feedback, and we also work on the art of doing those things. Like there's definitely an art to giving feedback and also being supportive, and it's a balance that is learned and is something that needs to be practiced. And and I think the art of giving and taking feedback just makes you a better creator and a better participant overall, and also a better player. So we're all in it. It just helps facilitate that sense of community. And we're all in this together, and it really stinks when you're playing a game by yourself. So why should you not be community focused? Because we're all in this to win and lose and have fun together.
100% agree, man. And I just like to reiterate everything you just said there. Like, you've been helping me because I'm blundering my way through my first steps of card design. So you've been helping me this week with one of my cards, and I think I'm at the point where I'm happy to start testing it properly now. And just there's just every day there's like custom cards being thrown in the custom cards thread, and people just genuinely like, I really like this part, I don't like this bit, this needs to be tweaked. There's so much support for everybody there, and I think that's really commendable, and I think that's the thing I really like about the server. And I try and hop in most days and have a read of the million messages that Tank Hunter and Hawk have fired at each other for most of the day. But
Indeed.
it's a great server. So listeners, if you want to be part of a vibrant community, because I know here in the UK, we were commenting before we recorded tonight, Lee, weren't we? The UK Facebook page is kind of dying a bit.
It is.
There's not much activity.
It is very sad, I'm not going to lie. And we'll insert a Red Dwarf clip here.
They're all dead. Everybody's dead, Dave.
Not Chen.
Gordon Bennett, yes, Chen, everybody. Everybody's dead, Dave.
Wait. Are you trying to tell me everybody's dead?
That's right. Everyone's dead, Dave.
They're all dead.
Slowly.
They're all dead.
They're all dead.
So yeah.
Wait. Are all dead?
Maybe. Yeah, they're all dead, Dave.
That's a Shockwave joke. You'll have to throw in the image for Shockwave. Are all dead?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. It's a really vibrant community, listeners. So if you want to be part of something that is, always active, then I'm sure Adam will be happy for us to share the link to join.
It took forever for me to join, but I'm there. I'm in Mos Eisley bar. I'm getting assaulted by guys who hasn't asked for a face, so it's fine, guys. It's all good. It's great. It's all good. He doesn't like you very much.
He doesn't like you.
I'm sorry.
I don't like you either.
Never gonna get old. Okay, so Adam, I think the one thing when it comes to like creating something as big as your set has been and how it's been embraced was, what was the design outlook from the get-go? Did it evolve from something really small to what now is available for the masses? Did it just start off as being, we'll create a couple of cards, to the juggernaut that it is? Because we've conquered the juggernaut and we've seen how big it was. So could you just expand on just like what it started off as and like how it's evolved over its time?
So one thing that is probably good context is that I've worked in game design before. I've been doing game design just related to some of my outside projects, outside of work and actually inside work. I actually started doing game design when I worked at EA about 15 million years ago. I was a kind of a systems game designer a little bit there when I was there, and really I think different design approaches by different creators. Lots of these approaches are valid, and they all have different strengths, and they all have different, opportunities to optimize. But for my part, when I started looking at, after I got over my, depressive state about the Transformers TCG getting canceled, and me sort of dealing with, what I was processing at the time, and I'm sure a lot of people in the community were feeling the same way about the loss of the game, supposedly at that point in time. I started thinking about sort of the places that the game hadn't gone during its lifetime, and where that the overall game design could go. And given that different timeline where Hasbro WotC would have continued with the game and continued developing the game, where could they have gone? For the purposes of designing World Strike, and I knew at some point that not only was I going to basically start a project where the goal was not just to develop 20 cards, something more along the lines of 100 cards or more, was I really started looking at it from a sort of a systems perspective where, yeah, sure, there were some cards that I was really looking to develop, but really what I wanted to do is I wanted to make sort of at least the start of an ecosystem. And I knew that if I was going to tackle something like, I knew pretty early that I was going to tackle Quintessons, that there was going to be no way that I was going to be able to do an entirely new faction with only a few cards. I would have to build something relatively large, probably something larger than anybody had attempted yet in the community, and that was sort of a conclusion that I faced and dealt with early. And then once I got over my I guess my reticence and my hesitation, maybe a little bit of anxiety and fear to start that project, things just started sliding into place quickly. Just really thinking about it from a design top centric, bird's eye view perspective, then sort of drilling down to the to the individual pieces as work progressed.
I think you're spot on with saying, like, where would this game gone had Hasbro and Wizards carried on making it. And I think inevitably the 1986 Transformers movie was going to be a feature of that. Obviously the arc did kind of some of the iconic characters, like the goodies and baddies. We had Galvatron, we had Rodimus and all that, and it's kind of like, I always thought, wouldn't it have been cool to see the Quintessons? And then you started dropping spoilers. I was like, oh my god, here they are. It's literally the first thing I built when when I got my physical cards of World Strike. I was like, I'm building sharks, I'm gonna do it. And just how hard was it to design a whole new faction? Because it plays, obviously for those viewers that have watched the set review and that and listened to some of mine and Lee's dialogue, it plays so different to a conventional Transformers faction. So how did you go about injecting that?
Well, I'm not entirely new to card games. I've actually, I haven't played a lot of Magic in my lifetime, but the Magic that I have played was back in Limited, back in Beta. I played a little bit of Limited Black Border play in 93, 92, 94, that era. I definitely had a hand full of Mox Jewels in my lifetime once.
Wow.
I definitely had enough high dollar Magic cards in my hand to buy several houses at one point, and it was mostly just like all my friends that were also involved in that test at the time, and some of them actually kept their cards and sold them at some point, and they are now very happy that they held on to them. But I didn't play a lot of Magic. I kind of just played with my friends during the beta, and then dropped out and actually started playing the Star Trek TCG. Which that game had a pretty good span. Probably was printed for about 10 or 15 years before they canceled that game, but that game continues to be supported via online committees, online tournament play, things like that. It still survives. And one aspect that game had was a ton of factions. They had basically factions for every major race in Star Trek. So you had your Federation, you had your Klingons and Romulans, and then they just kept adding new factions with new colors and new mechanics as new races and came out. One thing that was a bit irritating to me when I first started playing that game was that the sameness of factions. There wasn't a lot of mechanics between them that were different. There'd be flavor cards that would be somewhat different, but overall, the overall mechanics for each faction was the same. That was basically a source of irritation for me, so I thought early on the Transformers TCG as a more mature game, that's come along, much farther down the sort of evolution of, collectible card games. They didn't make the mistakes that other games had made, earlier in their history, where there was lots of sameness, mechanics, not a lot of flavor. But I always thought that envelope could be pushed a little further, and yeah, it was just really important for me in the beginning. When scoping out what Quintessons would be capable of doing, that they feel very different from Autobots and Decepticons and Mercenaries. I think even before I had started, playing around in Photoshop, dissecting card assets, looking at art, basically everything started in a spreadsheet. And I think the very first line of the spreadsheet was that we're introducing the Quintessons. The Quintessons are manipulators. They're not precisely interface fighters, but they can do so. They have unique and specialized strengths. They tend to play in the shadows, but when it comes time to kick some butt and take names, they send in their faceless minions to do it. And the judges and the sort of manipulators in the upper echelons of Quintesson society, they stay safely out of the way.
That really translates well into how they play, actually. Like, I played a fair amount, Lee, haven't I? You said how much you liked the Sharkticon deck that I was running.
It's so good, though, because it feels like, to me, like Dave's first build. I don't know how it is, if this was the intention as well, Adam. It felt like it was like a mini horde mechanic before you got to the final boss. Like, it felt like you were playing like an old school video game. It was like, right, I've dealt with one, I've dealt with a couple. Okay, cool, I might be able to hit this guy. Oh no, wait a minute, what the heck? He's just farted out a couple. He's brought them back. I just have to deal with these. But like, come on, seriously. And then by the time you get to the judge, how the game was for Dave and me when we played, he was just tooled up with tentacles and arms and stuff, and he was just like, Mwah! And I was just like, okay, I see how these guys play now. That's pretty darn cool. I guess it must have took a little bit of time to get those different interactions, because obviously Dave built it with sharks. Like, I've looked, and I've been hilariously looking at the Optimus Prime kind of build, because that looks really interesting. Then you've got like the mercs that you've thrown in there, and also, just keeping it Quintesson themed. It seems like obviously you had an original idea with the judges. How tricky was it to then just open up the floodgates? Because it seemed like you got your judges set really early on, but then it was like, how do we make their minions good? But then obviously they live in a universe with Decepticons, Mercenaries, and Autobots. How is the design aspect for working with all those? How did that come across, and how did that affect the card design overall?
Well, the great thing about doing an expansion in a game is that a lot of stuff is already, sort of put down in stone. You still have, things that are common throughout any given character card, for example. You still have 3 stats. You have your attack, your health, and your defense. And then you have an ability box, and then you have your stars. And, you're still playing within that sandbox where, even if you're going to do something new, you still have these things that are, the cornerstones of design. The sort of the ease of building on top of that should not be understated, because I've built new games before, and I tell you, the number of unknowns that exist for creating something entirely new versus something that you build on top of can be overwhelming at times. The tyranny of choice, right? Where a design can go any number of directions, and if you're playing in that sandbox where things are known, then basically everything becomes levers that you can pull. So there's definitely, as is with the judge design right now, you can kind of see where, things kind of lie as far as that theme, right? You're talking about something that has low attack, something that has, decent defense, and something that has a higher than number of health than usual. And I knew that, in the beginning, I kind of knew, yeah, that's kind of where we need to go, because how often have we seen a judge in a TV show, just sort of, layeth the smackdown on Prime? Never. Usually they're kind kind of abused by even somebody as small as Frenzy, right? Yanking on a chain that where a judge is attached to the end of, or like that one IDW comic Monstrosity where Megatron is dragging the judge across the desert, and all the judges can do is basically whine and talk cryptic.
Yeah.
But they are manipulators, and they do have they do have brains in their eggs, even if they're a little warped and crazy. They do know how to pull the strings of things, and apparently they have a lot of Sharkticons. So clearly they were competent enough to build that army and keep them under control, at least until Grimlock shows up. So yeah, the power of choice was something that I arrived at very early in their design, where I think in the beginning we were like, well, we kind of maybe want to do a keyword for each faction, because those keywords kind of already existed. Like Autobots had Safeguard, and Decepticons had Revenge, and Mercenaries had Bounty, and we were thinking about doing a keyword for Quintessons as well. But the more we started developing choices for judges, the more we kind of realized, hey, we don't need a keyword. We just have this mechanic that they kind of own. There are exceptions to that. There's Promo Omega Supreme, more on that later, that has a bulleted list of choices. But for the most part, choices, you see those a lot in other games, but not so much in Transformers, at least up to that point. And I thought that was a good design space for Quintessons to sort of exist in.
So if we're going to stick with bringing back stuff, like, because you touched on it a little bit, Adam, about like the Autobots had Safeguard and obviously the Mercenaries had Bounties. I think the one thing I took out from your set was there was a lot of love for specific things, like whether it was mercenary upgrades or mercenary cards. You did a lot of melee cards. I'm not going to attempt. Brian has told me how to pronounce this card all the time. That Angua or whatever, Surge or whatever it was, whatever you want to go.
Oh, Anglemois Surge. Yeah, it's very French.
It's very French. I think that's probably why I struggle saying it. Just a stab at the French right there.
Just take the baguette out of your mouth and put on your striped shirt, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, take the baguette and okay. No, I think it's really cool that you chose certain cards like that. Like you wanted to embrace that. Was that like the get-go when it came to some of your battle cards? Was like some of the stuff that Wizards kind of forgot about, like the Mercenaries and some of the keywords they brought into the game? Was that one thing you wanted to push as alongside obviously some of the great cards that you were putting alongside the faction of obviously the Quintessons that you were building?
My love for Transformers is pretty multi-textural, and I would say that my first love, other than the toys, was lore, and just getting deep into the Transformers lore. And I think other than the sort of standard like G1 loved Beast Wars, the first thing I really sort of glommed onto when I sort of got back into it in my adult life was the Japanese lore, and those characters like Starsaber, Deathsaurus, and along with that territory comes a lot of stuff that people haven't seen in the American mythos of Transformers. Like Anglemois Surge, that's where that came from. That was originated in the Japanese Beast Wars timeline, where basically remnants of Unicron was present in certain places in the Transformers universe, and that energy was called Anglemois. And yeah, it's a strange word, unfamiliar to us, but certainly for people that were Japanese Transformers fans, it's old hat. One thing I definitely talked to a lot, as far as people ask me as far as getting into World Strike, it just seems, other than Quintessons, which I've heard about, there seems to be lots of sort of unfamiliar topics, things in there that I personally have never heard of, and just a lot of obscure lore in that wave. And I would say that's where a lot of my love for the property and the brand really lies, is sort of the more obscure corners of the Transformers. And a lot of the Quintesson characters is like, about the Quintessons, but you may not know that this particular Quintesson, I think you might have mentioned Dr. Clap in a previous episode.
The Clementia.
Clap! He's got the clap!
Yeah. That clap, right? He's just very excited. He always wants to show his enthusiasm with his little tentacles. Okay. Oh dear. Anyways,
moving on.
Moving on. Yeah, Clementia was the basically the judge that resurrected Optimus Prime in season 3. So yeah, that's why he's the medical magistrate. Yeah, he's not self-medicating; he's medicating others. So yeah, that's for me as a designer and just for somebody that really appreciates the Transformers lore, it really brings me joy to sort of take these things that not everybody knows about and put them in card form so that people are exposed to it. As far as I knew, it'd be a good approach to take, because it's not as if the Hasbro game, when it was still in print, didn't delve in obscure characters and subject matter in their cards too. Like, did anybody know who Night Racer was before Night Racer became an SRT? No. SRT, Night Racer was a very, very limited BotCon exclusive during BotCon 94, and that toy is extremely expensive and rare, and I don't think they ever made another version of Night Racer anywhere else in any episode or cartoon. And somebody at Hasbro who had a similar love for these obscure characters decided, you know what, this character that nobody's ever heard of but got a toy made once, but there's probably only like 300 of them in existence in the entire world, let's make a SRT out of it. And that way people will look into the character a little bit and get interested. And seeing the way that Night Racer plays, she's certainly made an impact.
Oh, definitely. Like, she's definitely one of the strongest SRTs from Wave 5. Like, just for her value, like pure value, 5 stars, 11 health, like really, really strong.
Kind of grossly overstated in my mind, but I still love that card. It's incredible value.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone like loves playing with her, but against oh really? Like
Of course you picked her.
Yeah, totally. I think for me, like coming back into Transformers after a long hiatus, for me what kind of pulled me back in was obviously the card game, but then kind of I started reading the comics. So how much of the IDW timeline influenced what you were putting into World Strike?
Hugely, bigly, a bunch of adjectives that end in ly. Yeah, very muchly. I did love IDW, especially the 2004-2005 continuum. Haven't gotten too much into the new one, although I hear that's also quite good. It was a pretty big deal for me to sort of delve into that that specific lore and pull out concepts. I think it particularly pulled out Gift of Innermost Energon. That was a uniquely IDW concept of different Transformers pooling their Energon together to either honor a dead Transformer or help bring one back into a better state of health.
Yeah, that's a great nod to that comic book and that, because prior to reading that I had not heard of Innermost Energon, so it was really, really cool to see that you acknowledge that in the set. For me, like looking at all the stuff that's in the set, like with the Quintessons, and obviously they're really unique. You've kind of probably sort of probing a bit here what's coming, but Universal Greeting was one of the cards I was most happy to see.
I'll use the Universal Greeting.
Universal Greeting? Watch, I'll have him eating out of my hand.
Ba weep grana weep nitty-bong. Ba weep grana weep nitty-bong. See, the Universal Greeting works every time.
Because Bar Weep Grana Weep Nitty Bong's quite long spawn on the top of a card. You've hinted at Junkions, so obviously we've had the Quintessons and all that. I'm probably delving into no, Dave, we're not telling you yet. Junkions, are they coming en masse?
So let me tell you a little bit first about the logistical and production issues with Junkion production. Just from, I would say, from a detached point of view, as far as let's just pretend somebody was making the Junkions. I'm not going to say who is making the Junkions, but let's just pretend there's some guy. Let's just call him Alan.
Alan!
Let's pretend this guy is making Junkions. So there are definitely hurdles to making Junkions in the game. First off, there's not a whole lot of art out there for Junkions. Now, you would think that, weren't Junkions like a huge player in the movie and in Season 3? We definitely have seen lots of Rekgar and his buddies, in media. But when it comes down to actual like production art, there's not a whole lot of it. There's a little bit in Legends, but most of it is Rekgar. There's actually quite a few Junkion characters. A lot of them are motorcycles. Definitely IDW played a lot with Junkions, especially in the later phases of that storytelling. Introduced a bunch of new characters too, which I think really enriched Junkion lore and what is known about Junkions. And it's not just Rekgar, even though he gets all the fan service and he gets all the exposure in his various forms that he's taken over the years. It's really challenging to make Junkions, and to the point that we were talking about earlier about Quintesson design, it's really it would be really important for this hypothetical person who is trying to bring Junkions to the game. It would be really important for him to make sure that Junkions also play very differently than everybody else in the game. And so I think it'd be, if I were to give advice, whoever he is, wherever he is out there, that young, optimistic card creator from Team Bayformers, I would say that he take his time in making sure that Junkions, are an entirely new experience in the game, and that they play very differently, just like Quintessons have. And so far Quintessons have been a success and very well received in the community, and I'm super happy about that. Just do the same with Junkions, and get it right.
I feel like it's really like, it's interesting when you're trying to think of like a faction. Like I agree with everything you said there, Adam. It just like Junkions, they're kind of like, in a way, to me, when I saw them in the movie, I felt like they were like a good version of like a Sharktacon. They're just like endless minions, because like when Dan, RC, Springer, and Ultraman, everyone, they're literally just going against hordes and hordes, because even Dan's like, they're everywhere. Like, it literally is. So trying to get a unique like outlay on them could be quite awesome, because it's like, we've seen, like, we didn't know how they were going to do combiners. That was kind of interesting. And then obviously we saw Headmasters, what Hasbro did and what Wizards did, which was very different as well. So it's definitely going to be a unique experience, but like, I couldn't let Dave not spoil Universal Greeting. I think it'll be sacrilegious, because he's been crying out for that card for so long.
I did. I was like, every content creator we spoke to him like, please can you make a card called Bar Week Granal Week Nini Bong or Universal Greeting, please. And then you guys did without me asking you. I was like, I love these guys.
True.
So flavorful. I love it.
Yeah, I love cross-factional cards. It's an opportunity. We were talking about flavor earlier, especially factional flavor, and how that really sort of brings a game's particular faction identity, to life, where you're really feeling like you're playing Autobots or Decepticons, because the mechanics reinforce what you've already sort of supposed about that, Decepticons being a little bit, backstabbery and, quote unquote evil and underhanded, Autobots a little being more up and up, but, occasionally a little bit of authoritarian and Quintessons really being, the manipulators in the shadows and being shifty and unreliable and unpredictable. As far as Universal Greeting is concerned, I definitely wanted to create that card where it's Autobots interfacing with this, mysterious new species, whether it be, Quintessons or Junkions. And I really wanted to capture sort of a gift box sort of gameplay where you would have multiple options, and that really plays into Quintesson mechanics as is, having a choice. And, I definitely wanted to make a card where you have this gift box and you can just basically pull out, it's kind of like a chocolate sampler. It's probably nothing amazing, because these things are they make 1 million of these a year, and it's not the best chocolate you've ever eaten, but it's decent, it's all right.
It'll do.
But there's a lot of choices. You get a little bit of a boost and you get a little bit of a buzz, maybe a sugar buzz, maybe otherwise, but you have some choices there.
So obviously when it comes to designing cards, I know. For me personally, if I was looking at designing a cards, and I think I've said it multiple times on this podcast, first thing I'd look at is making Blitzwing. Like, your favorite characters are always on the top of the list. Was with this set, was any characters that actually made the set were something that you knew immediately? You're like, I'm excited to design this one card, or this, like, a few in particular that you were like, this is going to be amazing. This needs to happen. I'm excited that I get to put my kind of take on that character, as well as I got to design something that, you know, is one of my favorites, you know.
I wouldn't say that Gilthor is my favorite character in the mythos, but it's definitely one of those standout characters where I think of Gilthor and I go, this is a really great, awesome character that nobody knows about. And I would love to reveal this, you know, this character in some sort of way to the Transformers game, and that was, you know, a very, very early bullet where I made the decision very early on, like, Gilthor is going to be our SRT, and he's going to be a great, very solid character, a very expensive character, and yeah, we've. Also, so there are people in Team Bayformers who are also huge G.I. Joe fans.
G.I. Joe is the code name for America's daring, highly trained special mission force. Its purpose, to defend human freedom against Cobra, a ruthless terrorist organization determined to rule the world.
I got into it a little bit when I was a kid, but you know, they still have, you know, immense interest in in G.I. Joe, especially vehicles. And I just remember one day, you know, talking to my friend and looking at the Thunderclap and going, "Wow, that's an amazing vehicle." It's basically this sort of rocket launcher pulled by two different smaller vehicles. It has this giant rocket on it. It's green, and I was like, you know, I don't want to do because Gilthor was depicted as sort of this gun truck in Japanese lore, and I thought, well, that's interesting, but it's a little bit too derivative for my taste. Like, it's too on the nose as far as being a Optimus Megatron amalgamation. It's like, of course, it'd be like this, you know, red truck with a handle on the side. Of course, that's what you'd do if you threw Optimus and Megatron together. And I thought, you know, let's be a little more creative about this. Why don't we riff off the Thunderclap and call that Gilthor? And so, yeah, there was this whole process with ideating Gilthor for the Transformers TCG, sort of fleshing out what his features would be, what he would look like, working with Harvey to, you know, Harvey Bunda to come up with this art. We actually ended up splitting those. Duties pretty large percentages of each bit of work in order to come up with Gilthor was split between us. I'm an illustrator myself, and what I did is, you know, the work that he does, you know, completely blows me out of the water as far as his ability to render a character to such fidelity. Although I'm pretty good at design, and he was definitely, in the beginning of the process, he was definitely asking me lots of questions as far as, like, what does this vehicle actually look like? What does the robot actually look like? You know, we're dealing with an original design. You know, maybe you can give me a better idea other than, you know, this is a Thunderclap that turns into something that kind of looks like Optimus and Megatron. And so I ended up doing lots of orthographic work, basically just, you know, taking the Thunderclap, changing things here and there in order to accommodate the robot design, making changes just to make it work functionally. And yeah, just I did the vehicle side in front and the robot side in front, and I sent those to Harvey, and he said, "This is incredibly useful. I think I can run with this." And yeah, then he produced the art, and it looks like what you know, everybody's seen as far as Gilthor's design. And that was a you know, as far as you know, our communications and such, he thought the whole process was really fulfilling and enjoyable, and you know, we lifted that to design together, and we hope to do it again in the future.
It's a standout card from the set, without a doubt. Like, I've you know, from a gameplay perspective, he's incredibly good. He's incredibly powerful. He's kind of like the polar opposite of the judges, but the artwork as well. The artwork is spice. I just love it, man. I think what you and Harvey created there is so good. Because I had no idea who Gilthor was. I actually had to look it up. I was like, who's Gilthor? Like, he looks a bit like Prime there, but I don't know. And yeah, spot on. Like, probably one of my favourites from the set. He just plays, when you actually play with him, especially with colossal cannons, you're just, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah, and everything in there, going beyond the production of the art, and also going a bit into the design, the mechanics of the card. That card went through quite a few changes. Gilthor used to be a 15-star card with 22 health, and I think his bot damage might have been 8, and his vehicle might have been 6 at one point. So he was also swinging, for sort of OPBL numbers with a much higher health pool count at one point. Then we just decided to lower him down to 13 stars, just so he'd fit into slightly more decks than 15 would. But we powered him down just a little bit just to bring him in line with OPBL and other leaders of that size. Honestly, I was thinking the same thing. During Gilthor's design, I'm like, we never got a good Megatron, and Gilthor is an opportunity to take a Megatron-esque approach to a character design, even though it's not Megatron. It's definitely influenced by Megatron, and maybe this would have been a great Megatron. But there's a few differences, I think. Mostly around flavor. Like, I don't think Megatron ever played with tentacles before. But
who knows? Who knows what he does?
Just to give you a bit of a spoiler into things that we're working on. We worked obviously on a different version of Optimus Prime for BFA World Strike. I think it's probably safe to say that there's going to be a Megatron in BFA.
Yeah.
Good. I do find it funny, though. I do. Dave and me said it, I think, in our review. We do find it funny that the Optimus Prime is ranged, but he has an Energon axe. We find that effing hilarious. Like, seriously.
Yes. The reasoning is that his arm fell off and then he threw it at the enemy because now he used his ranged weapon and now he's gonna have to switch over to melee. But you shouldn't let Prime throw his arm at you. I just think that's rude.
I absolutely love it. And just the little things to it as well, like the extra arm for the battle card gets me every time because I think we talked about it. Just like, wouldn't it be funny to just run loads of these with the general what was it, Galaxy Prime? Yeah, just have all the arms.
Yeah, 3-armed Galaxy Prime, which actually works because the Galaxy Prime figure has these armatures that swing down below his arms. So it's not entirely out of the question. I mean, you do have these arms holding huge cannons. So I think that's thematic.
So going on, obviously you've said you've enjoyed bringing Gilthor to the game. When it comes to you playing with your own set, is there anything that you've enjoyed playing more than anything else, or is there still stuff you haven't even tried with your set as well? Because it's quite an undertaking. Like, it makes me want to go back and look at Mercs, and I'm like, what the heck do those guys do? I can't even remember. And it's kind of, I guess it's opened up a lot of people's binders, I guess, to go look back at stuff. So is there anything that you love playing and what you're looking forward to trying out, obviously?
Definitely. So, just as a game designer for World Strike, I definitely, if we're going to treat World Strike as an ocean that you swim in, I've definitely gone into the shallow end, at least with all of the cards. I've definitely, play tested them enough individually to at least know how they interact as a whole with themselves and other, wave 1 through 5 sets. In many cases, I know how they interact with art cards and ATP cards and such. But I would say that, the depths are still largely unexplored in that set, and there's still a lot to be learned. I've been playing Sharktons a lot, and obviously in the beginning, Sharktons were an early concept. I was obviously playing them a lot while developing Sharktons, and I probably put more time into Sharktons basically than anybody has, which is understandable because I'm the person that made them. But I've been getting back into them recently just because other players have been picking up things about them and sort of finding things about them that haven't really been seen before, and that really just sort of increases my curiosity about their overall mechanic, because I'm actually playing a Sharkton deck that's actually been testing very well against Menasor, and any deck of cards that puts up a fight against Menasor is one I'm very interested in generally. with ATP Menosaur. So I still think there's a lot to be discovered in the set. Per your point about mercenary play, I was definitely playing mercenaries a lot during Wave 4. Octone in particular. I was definitely one of the Octone crew, hey Evangelist. And that was a little bit of a meme during the ENERGON Invitational, the Octone crew. It was always just a cry and shame how dirty Wave 5 did mercenaries. And
Amen. Amen, brother. Amen.
You did them dirty.
Yeah, dirty.
This is going to take some time. Everything's very dirty.
Just so dirty. And they don't deserve that. They don't deserve that. They're hard workers. They just want to earn their bounties and go home and have a little McAdams. They don't deserve that treatment. To your point about certain themes that World Strike explored, along with my love of lore in the mythos, especially obscure lore, I just don't like the idea of things being forgotten. And Mercenaries was sort of one of those things. Plan was another one of those things. And so there's a lot of plan cards in World Strike. Things that support plan gives it more of an option as far as current gameplay. Melee, what did that even mean in the game until we injected a lot of life into them? Melee is sort of like the thing you were sort of forced to play if you couldn't play ranged or specialists, right? There was nothing special about them. And I would say about a month after we started developing World Strike, we actually took all of the traits of the game and we tried to figure out what a future roadmap for those traits would be. And what that means is trying to figure out what makes those what makes those traits flavorful. And so we have this spreadsheet that has melee, range, specialist, trains, planes, every single trait outside of the Micromaster ones. And we try to determine what's that mechanic going to look like in future sets and future cards. And as far as the melee direction, we were just like, well, wouldn't it be kind of interesting if we just rewarded you for punching yourself in the face?
Yeah, there's some great cards for melee. I think my favourites talking about just that is the Polydermal Graft. That card is nuts. That's so good.
Yeah, I ran into a couple of instances recently playing Polydermal Graft in decks where, it's a great card, but I ran into situations where I had 1 health and I couldn't play that card on myself to save my life because it would have killed me first. And I like that kind of card design where decision points are made.
Do you feel like there's some stuff that is in the Transformers universe, and obviously you said you're a big lore guy, that seem possibly like not touchable, like you can't design them like I'm just gonna say now, like everyone knows I love the Decepticon Justice Force. Like everyone knows I love those guys. They're very determined, and obviously if you're a youngster and you're playing this game, if you've read those comics, how dare you at your age, because what they do is not that great. But one turns into an electric chair. One turns into an electric chair. How is that going to work? I don't know. Is there anything that you think could not make any sense? Like, I'm not going to bring up the stupidity of Broadside. Like, everyone knows the saga I went through with Wes and Broadside. Like, here he's 2 things in one and all that jazz. But is there anything you think that is possibly... It just seems that bizarre that if someone makes it, fair play to them, but they're better off left probably on the sidelines.
As you mentioned, Broadside, I squirm around in my chair uncomfortably. No. To your point, I think I'll just say it. It's a 2-word phrase. Kiss players.
Fair. So for people who aren't so sure about this, do you want to expand on that, just for people who don't get that? Because we might have some listeners who aren't 100% sure.
one of the jokes we used to get a lot of grief about the name of our team Bayformers, because in the beginning people thought that we were going to do a wave of Bayverse figures, characters, based on the movies of Michael Bay. Spoiler alert: we never will. It's just something that matched really well with the fact that we live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and it was it was a bit tongue in cheek, but yeah, we used to get a lot of heat about that. Like, I will never support your cards because you call yourselves Bayformers. I'm like, well, have at ya, Haas. One of the jokes one of the retorts we would always bring back is, well, we were thinking about going by the name Team Kiss Players, but we decided on Bayformers instead. And the people in the know were like, we're glad you picked Bayformers. And as far as other things, I mean, it'd be really hard to pull off a Decepticon. I think that'd be difficult. You combine all of your Decepticons into a combiner. Congratulations. I think that deck would be a little bit too large to play with. But never say never. Maybe Ammonites, the minicons from IDW. They'd probably be. I say that. The more I think about it, I'm like, oh, I would actually really love to bring the Ammonites into the game. It's just that there's not a lot of them that are actually named. But yeah. It's anything that has to do with problems with scale. I think is challenging. I honestly thought that when Powered by Primus was working on the Unicron raid, I thought they would have issues pulling that off, and I thought they did a really good job. They really laid down a great framework for a sort of a raid format experience in the Transformers TCG, and what we talk about a lot nowadays is possibly expanding that experience. And I think they're to be commended by taking that leap and bringing something to the game that hadn't been seen up until that point.
Yeah, we love the Unicron raid. I think it's just so much fun. It harkens back to me for like Arch Enemy and Magic. Really, really, really good fun. I'm looking forward to where they take that as well, because we've had hints from Wares about like a Nightmare mode and
their new shiny one.
Insane mode and stuff. So it's really cool, because that's actually something when you were talking about Angle Marsh Surge, I wanted to say, like, because you've got a little bit of help for Unicron on that card, isn't there? Because like if you had Unicron Chaos Bringer, you get a Chaos counter. So that was cool.
Yeah, I actually wanted to add a little note as far as I know that the two of you had been talking about sort of the ARC Bayformers relationship, and occasionally I think I guess there's sort of a community thought that our collaboration was sort of this long storied history, and to be honest, that sort of collaboration only started very recently. And as far as the Anglemoss Search edition, with that it would add a little something to Unicron Chaosbringer, that was actually something that I surprised them with. I didn't go to them first and say, hey, we're making a card that's going to support the Unicron raid if they ever decide to throw other cards in. We just did it, and they sort of discovered it on their own, and they brought a myriad selection of reactions, and I was happy to hear that their reactions were so passionate and so strong. Overall, the overall reception was quite positive, but it wasn't all positive, but most of it was.
Yeah, I love that nod to the Powered by Promise raid in the Arc. Just it's really cool. And we can talk about that actually as we go through the episode, like how that relationship with the Arc started and stuff. So that's really cool. It's good that you said, like, it's recently, but it's quite a few months ago the announcement was made, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'd say probably like 2.5, 3 months or so.
Exciting. Like, from our perspective, like, two of the big players sort of working in cahoots, as it were, to make sure their cards play nice together. I think that's a really, really cool thing.
Yeah, a little bit more on that point. I think there's also sort of I would say a perception in the community that the development between World Strike and Arcwave 1 had a lot of overlap, and to be honest, that was always sort of the ideal that we would work towards in the future, but the reality is that World Strike and Arcwave 1 very mostly worked in isolation from one another. It was just, I think, right at the end where World Strike's development overlapped the end of Arcwave 1's a bit, and I think when we heard about Bruticus, we kind of wanted to show on in the team, we kind of wanted to show our support to them and say, hey, there are other creators that are noticing your work, and we want to, sort of put a good foot forward and show that, we're willing to support what you're doing. And that kind of led to Third Party Brigade and Shock Blast. And, once again, we kind of want to nip at the fringes of what's already been, placed in the game. And so when they came out with the Combaticons, we were just like, there's a little shockwave gun that comes with the most recent version of the Combaticons.
Yeah.
We could also do a character like that and throw it in and just give them, allow that character to be included in the Combaticons team at the cost of a penalty. And we thought that would be a good, nice, solid, balanced game design. And that's the way it was received. So, as soon as they found out about it, that's what started opening the door to a larger collaboration.
Yeah, that's so fantastic. I'm yet to try Bruticus with Shock Blast, and I cannot wait, because I think what you did with both him and with Power Glide, because when we reviewed Power Glide first, I'm like, he's not as good.
That's my honest opinion.
Like, what is going on here? But obviously we hadn't looked at the bigger picture because we were reviewing it blind, And once I actually got my set, I was like, Lee Power Glide is really cool. And he could also go into a 6-wider Superion team. Whoa! So this is really cool, really cool, and it's awesome to see that those doors are open and that you guys are looking to do stuff in collaboration. I think that's fantastic, and it's exactly what the game needs to thrive. And it goes back to what you were saying earlier about like your Discord and the community and just working in cohesion with each other.
We continue to collaborate very closely on a daily basis. As far as like the product of our collaboration, hopefully soon we'll be able to show a little bit more of our work, sort of the collision of our different designer perspectives, and something that actually is playable on the game table that officially comes from both the Arc and Bayformers. But we'll have news about that when we get to it.
That's awesome to hear. I think that's a perfect segue to talk about your tournaments, Adam, because obviously we've had Encounter 1, which was the introduction of your cards with art cards and obviously wizard cards and stuff, and the new one that's going on right now, which is open up the doors to use ATP. So it seems like you guys are kind of like us, like a baby Switzerland. We're full Switzerland. Maybe you're a baby Swiss in a way, but it's kind of cool to see like everyone embracing each other's content, because that's what Dave and me do with this podcast and what we've done and made some hilarious shenanigans when it comes to combining everyone's sets that we love and adore. But how's the process been working with other people, and obviously the whole tournament aspect of introducing your cards to that kind of scene, should we say, for the Transformers?
There's a lot around introducing the idea of crossplay to different gameplay environments, different groups, as sort of the presentation of what the real world actually is, where most people play, the context of how people play. As far as the philosophy of Team Bayformers, we always believed in the kitchen table. That's where gameplay happens. And in reality, at the kitchen table, people are going to be playing with the cards they enjoy playing with. They're not going to be looking at cards from a group perspective. They're going to be looking at individual characters, individual battle cards, and stratagems they like, and they're going to be mixing them as much as they can. I think that's the reality of play in the Transformers TCG, and the one we want to cater to the most. And that's been our view from the beginning. I don't believe that any particular creator group is an island. In reality, people are just downloading the cards they want and playing the games they want with characters that they love. Even with our strange little island over at Team Bayformers, we're making a bunch of characters that most people haven't heard of, but that's what we love to do. That's our niche. That's the one we picked, and we're thriving because of that. A lot of decision making we make as far as community relations and the sort of events that we hold are based on that foundation, where people are playing at kitchen tables. They're not worried about things like, for lack of a better term, favoring other groups over others. Hopefully somebody sees a card that's posted online and they go, "Oh my god, I love that character," or "I really loved that series, the cartoon, that movie, whatever that this particular concept or character, object, thing, vegetable was presented in." That's the reality of play. People are going to pick what they play, and they're going to play what they love. And so, yeah, crossplay is baked into Team Bayformers from the very beginning. Like I said, we were just talking about third-party brigade. This was baked into our first product, the acknowledgement that other creator groups exist. You mentioned a bunch of luminaries in our Discord when we first started talking. Talking about people like Eddie Santos, talking about Legendary Void. We all started talking, I believe, in the custom cards channel in the main Discord for TFTCG. Back in the day, and at one point, none of us had made cards, at least in any sort of real way. Before the game was canceled, and a lot of those early community roots were sort of forged in that channel. And that's why we all hang out, even though we have our own projects. And I think for the most part, at least especially early on, before anybody sort of knew where things were going, and before players actually got established, like Eddie went and made his set, mostly with his own energy and within his own team. But we were still talking the whole time. He was asking for my feedback, and talk about ways to approach things, and occasionally he'd step in for alpha testing the stuff that I was working on. Different levels of support are different for different contexts of working editions that each creator group is working in. Doesn't mean that might not even have a full collaboration like the ARC and Bayformers have, but those support levels are still there. We heavily support Eddie's work, even if there's no sort of formal tournament scene per se that includes Bayformers cards or art cards or Eddie's cards, or even Wave X, the Beast Wars set, ATV, what have you, right? We tend to be very controlled when it comes to which encounters have which cards, because we want to sort of be able to distinctly monitor the different interactions between two sets, because two sets all by themselves have a lot of volatility. We need to be able to walk into those situations very mindfully. But it doesn't mean that we don't play with those cards on the regular, especially in the casual league. We do have a casual league on the Discord where the point is not to have this awesome win record. It's to play games with each other and try stuff out and try different cards, and not be so concerned about the win-loss percentage, because metas have this very focusing effect, where as the game continues to march towards being solved, the amount of diversity in decks decreases over time. That's why new releases are critical, because as the game continues to be solved, everything sort of creeps slowly towards heat death in a sense. The universe of gameplay, becomes more and more homogenized over time, until suddenly everybody's playing Sky Shadow.
You're dumb. You're dumb.
Right?
Yeah.
And, that's new possibilities being presented to players and designers at the same time is just good for the health of the game. And it shouldn't be competitive all the time. There's a place for jank, there's a place for the meta, and there's a place for crazy decks that'll fall on their face on game 2. But that's kind of funny, because there are people watching you play that game. They're having a good laugh about that as well. But, there's that chance that when you play that miserable deck, you'll see something in a card that you didn't see before. Let's just take a card out, like Papa Wheelie. God, what a worthless card, right? It's just, it's like you get to attack a second time with a motorcycle. I guarantee you that card will be more relevant in the future. And I wouldn't say that I personally had a lot of experience with that card, but I have played against it occasionally and went, there's something about this card that needs to be more, needs to be surfaced a bit more in gameplay.
No, it's great. I think it's really good to see, what you guys are all about, and it's straight up like what Dave and me are about right there. You guys are there for kitchen table. You want to have some fun. You want to, there is the time for the competitive play, and there is the time for absolute jank. And I can tell you, it's great when you go play competitive games, don't get me wrong, and you see the same lists over and over again, and you want to punch your opponent. But hey, they're having fun. That's all that matters. But it's also that one time where you play that one guy who's like, what the heck is this all about? And it's like, well, if I get these 3 cards off, if I play a brainstorm, it's going to be incredible. And then you see it, and then you go like, oh my God, that was incredible. And you can't help but smile from ear to ear. It's just so good.
Let me tell you something. Going back to the point about playing Sky Shadow, and I try my best. There's definitely, I would say my salt around seeing that on the other side of the table has definitely varied over time, depending on when I actually saw it.
You're dumb.
Nowadays, my salt levels are, some weak lays, I guess, but not like a horse block, where I'm just looking at just for the pure salt content. But I would say just to give you an example of the way I approach it. So when I first started playing Transformers TCG, the thing that I saw immediately that got me into the game was bugs. I saw that bugs deck, and I was like, that gameplay is cool. Like, there's stuff going on there. It's so aggressive. It's so unforgiving in its aggression. I definitely want to give that a spin when I first start playing the game. And so my first game of TFTCG in a friendly local game store was against Kevin Allen. You might know Kevin Allen for his Cars deck and his high placement, I believe, in Gen Con. And so he was the big personality in our scene. And he saw bugs across the table from him, and he basically, he was just like, it's bugs, right? He's playing another bugs deck, and he said he just straight up told me to my face that he hated playing bugs. And I'm like, well, I'm just learning the game, so hopefully you can play a game or two, so I can learn a thing or two. And he grit and bared it. he got through the game. He taught me some interesting things, and I started playing other decks. I soon discovered that I didn't like playing orange. I like playing blue more. And so, especially with new players that are attracted to new and powerful decks, I try to be very forgiving for that, because that was the experience that I went through when I first got started.
So I've got one cheeky last thing to ask Adam. Have you got anything you want to ask Adam, Dave, or shall we finish it on this lovely thing before he can shoot loads of questions at us? And
just sort of really talk about the Encounter series. Obviously, you've got Encounter 2 started today as we're recording. You've started Encounter 2, so you're doing that cross-platform ATP and Bayformers is legal, so it's going to be interesting to see what deck archetypes come out of that, because there's some crazy powerful stuff on their side, the ATP side, and there's some crazy powerful stuff on yours, so it'll be really cool to see what comes out of that. So just give us a bit more of a lowdown of what your tournament series is, what the prize support is, cost to entry, how people enter your events, because it's crazy, like how are these events happening? Like, we can't, but obviously the internet allows us to play games with people from all over the world. So give us a bit of a lowdown on the World Strike Encounter series. Precisely,
yeah. Really excited to bring the World Strike Tournament series Season 1 to the community, and it's a webcam tournament. So if you're able to play over webcam, then you can play with us. I played a lot in the Eye of the Matrix tournaments. Basically, Team PTSD from Southeast Asia, they have been hosting these global tournaments for some time now, and they're mostly focused on Wave 1 through 5, but recently they started doing different creator group sets. They did one for ATP, they did one for the ARC, and now they're doing a World Strike one coming up soon. But we're actually taking quite a few notes from them as far as the context of a worldwide webcam tournament for Transformers TCG featuring World Strike as a foundation. And as far as the tournament season is concerned, we have these 5 events, which will serve as the core of the main season, and basically we have it set up so that for a particular encounter, it'll have a theme. Encounters 1, 3, and 5 will be World Strike plus core only, and then 2 and 4 will be 2 is ATP plus World Strike, and Encounter 4 is ARC plus World Strike. And so each of those will have their own prize pools, their own ban lists, basically exploring the boundaries of true crossplay. I wouldn't say that we were the first tournament to actually do crossplay. I think the 0 hour tournament that Clone Killer did was technically one of the very first crossplay tournaments where he mixed his 0 hour cards with ATP. I do believe those two sets were designed basically to work well with one another, at least as far as the conversations I've had. That's what I picked up, is that 0 hour was designed to work with ATP very closely. But the Encounter 2 is happening right now as we speak, And so, yeah, we've got a record number of players in this one. We have enough for a top 8 cut, so I'm really pleased for that. And prize support, entry fee is free. We just want people to come and play, and we want to provide a little incentive for people to come and play. So we do have some cash incentives, and we do have some prize support, including play mats from World Strike. I think you had mentioned the Crash Bash mat from that was being offered to the champion of Encounter 1, and yeah, that seems to have gotten a lot of positive feedback. One thing I don't think I went into too much detail is that I actually work with a illustration studio. I've long been an illustrator and a drawer of things. Work with lots of colorists and comics artists, and me working with Harvey wasn't entirely cold. Like we already had an existing relationship, and it's as far as like being able to produce things, as far as like prizes and card art, that all comes very naturally for us, and we from day one we wanted to make sure that we utilize that as much as possible for both our cards that we create and for prize support. So yeah, you can definitely expect more cool things like play mats to be prize support in the future, not just the one that we produced for season 1, but also for things like who's going to win the season. Maybe they'll get a special play mat with original art or something, something that really sets them apart from the pack. But yeah, I'm also, like I said, Transformers toy collector, so I'm actually in the middle of reducing my collection, and that actually worked out really well when it came to providing prize support for season 1, because I could just throw a bunch of sealed toys into the mix that I already had on hand. So yeah, the tournament season 1, as well as each individual encounter event, does come with a number of prizes that are, if you like toys, you might get one.
That's cool, because you also you take donations, don't you, from the community to help fund, because obviously art like Harvey's isn't free, it's high quality stuff. So you have donations and that. I'd like to say I donated to your pool and that, and that's all going into development, isn't it? Art, production of playmats and stuff like that, which means that you're able to offer these really, really cool prizes. So that's kind of key as well, and I think that's been really well received by the community, hasn't it? You've had an outpouring of donations.
Yeah, it's been pretty very generous. I've definitely been blown away, with some of the donations we received, and we're pretty lucky as far as Team Bayformers is concerned. We have a pretty sizable budget as far as what we can do. The things that we can do right now, just sort of give to a forecast, because I think that it's useful for people that are actually donating to understand where sort of finances lay for a particular community project. Anything that we produce obviously is nonprofit. We're not in this to make any sort of profit at all. At the most, what we want to do is give artists enough money for their work, so that they should get paid for their work. So definitely artists that are working under us, that are looking to pay the rent, we're happy to help with that, obviously, because artistic work should be valued more than it is. It's sort of sad that there are these Twitter accounts like forexposure.txt, where we hear all these horror stories about artists not getting paid for their work, and I think that's atrocious and a complete travesty. And I don't like how devalued the arts are in, I guess, just this generalized capitalist world. They deserve recompense for their work as much as anything. And just like I said, I'm an artist too, so I'm a little bit closer to the community than somebody who doesn't work in the community. But yeah, I think some of the we want to do what we can to help them out, and that's why that's part of the reason why we ask for donations, because the more donations we get, the more art we can produce, and the more art we can produce, the more artists are happy and will continue to want to work with us. It's basically a virtuous cycle there, and then people are getting these awesome cards with original art that they've never seen before. I think that's great. There's lots of there's lots of art on the internet, and we work with the limited resources we have in order to produce it. There's just a lot of cases where we are doing characters that just don't have any art. So, you know, it's, well, Gilthor, for example, right? The Gilthor that we wanted to produce just didn't have art that existed. So we worked with Harvey to bring that to life, and we're happy to do so. But these things, you know, take effort and work and money, and you know, the time to be able to work on these things. And these are all problems we're trying to solve, and we're more than pleased to receive donations from the community to help make that happen.
Awesome sauce. Right. I've got to get it. We've got to just get into it. So we've talked about characters. We've talked about the battle cards. We haven't really touched about the stratagems. Now, the stratagems, some are incredible. There's a few where I'm like, these are great.
Is the nuclear bomb warning coming in again?
And I feel like there's one that is dumb.
You're dumb.
No, I'm kidding. It isn't that dumb. It's just, I think it's like we touched about on it a little bit with all the cross-pollination, and the mixing of other sets can make it a bit crazy. But when it came to the stratagem design aspect of it then, Adam, were there certain characters you were like, this needs to happen, ding, 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 this is a character that needs help? Was there any that really stood out? And when it came to some of the design aspects, some of them are crazy awesome, I like it. And then there's some that have been, should we say, educational between Dave and me, almost becoming, like fighting between like Scotland and England back in the day, you know, quite close. So your thoughts, mate?
Oh, I've got plenty. So I tend to be a bit of a troll in, you know, just my daily life. I tend to be the one that does pranks. You know, I thought, you know, April Fool's Day is my favorite holiday of the year because I'm a terrible person. There might have been a bit of holiday content on the Team Bayformers page if you ever want to check it out. Some of the sad lost opportunities that we had exposure to for just one day only, and the products that related to it. Such, I definitely recommend you check it out if you like pranks. But as far as like my approach to design, I think it definitely aligns with sort of my demeanor in that regard. I definitely wanted to disrupt the Wave 5 meta as it existed with most of my cards, right? So making cards like Brace for Impact, right, where you have a character, Ramjet, who is much loved by the community, and you see the card and you see the potential in the card, but it doesn't really go anywhere because it doesn't have any abilities. You know, it has phenomenal stats. Doesn't really do anything on its own, but people really just want to play Ramjet, and you know, particularly that card because, once again, amazing stat line. You know, making a card like Brace for Impact, where it does more things when you have an armor or weapon on them, you know, it really aligns with, whoa, this card that has this vanilla card that has no real abilities is competitive. I know it's competitive because I play that card a lot in the Team Bayformers the tournament, and I know a lot of people that see that card across the table and go, oh, we're not gonna have a good time. You know, that's generally my approach towards most of the stratagems and characters I want to play. I just really want to shake things up and take characters that, you know, didn't really have a chance before and give them a chance. When it came to cards like Promo Omega Supreme and the Last Line of Defense, I actually took a bit of the opposite approach, where I actually wanted to reinforce the meta, where I wanted to have a card that, out of the box, presented itself as very strong. Like, the Last Line of Defense stat boosts on there are pretty massive. Like, the cards, you know, basically the base stats of Promo Omega Supreme, the 19 cards, it was very understated. We wanted to bring it up to in line to what it should have been, at least in the Wave 5 meta, and then we wanted to pack on top of it just a bunch of awesome abilities that are clearly powerful, especially when you combine them with sort of you know, the way that strat sort of presents itself. The cards you want to include that deck are probably pretty obvious. You probably want to put Stuck on You in there. You probably want to put Autobot Countdown in there. You probably want to put Ghost Shield in there. You just want to do some really gross things with some really powerful cards and take a card which was formerly pathetic and is now pretty intimidating across the table. Like, it's a big thing. But what a lot of what I say players that are not as familiar with the card don't immediately realize is that the Last Line of Defense actually suffers when you use cards that are popular in the Wave 5 meta. Therefore, lots of cards that were played a lot in that meta really take the gas out of it. You know, just cards that you see a lot in those meta decks. Camion Crash takes out Countdown. Spy Sat takes out Countdown. So if you take out Countdown, that deck just loses a lot of steam, because now you're not throwing damage here and there to and fro. It's a very powerful deck, and if you play it in a non-meta way, yeah, it's going to kick your butt. If you play against it in the way that deck wants you to play against it, yeah, you're not going to have a good time. But if you don't, it's kind of it's a bit of a Humpty Dumpty sound on the wall sort of situation, where if the wind blows a certain way, it'll fall over. And I particularly, I mean, I built a lot of cards in World Strike that demolished that, just basically demolished that deck. Crash Bash in particular. So there were two last line of defense decks in Encounter 1. Both of them placed in the middle of the field. I played against both of them, and and there was definitely one game, and this was not an isolated incident, where I had Crash Bash. Obviously I was trying to get a Countdown, because that's how you take the deck out. I definitely pulled a Anglemon Surge, flipped over to bot mode, swung into Omega Supreme, did 9 damage, got my trigger, moved 9 damage over to a Countdown, and then the game was basically over at that point.
Yeah.
So one thing you can definitely be sure of, if Team Bayformers ever makes a powerful deck out of the box, you can be sure that there's going to be some sort of Achilles heel built in, and it's not going to be some sort of obscure Achilles heel like Cornered, or something that's just not generally played in the meta. It's going to have something that's relatively present. So yeah, that's my promise, and I'm sticking to it, and hopefully I don't disappoint anybody in the future.
I was going to say it was kind of an apology, but it wasn't. But it's good. It's good. No, it's. What were you going to say, Dave?
I was going to say that's a really good point. Like that deck, the linchpin is Countdown, and if you can take him out, and I think. You look at, he's talking about Crash Bash, because he's arguably one of the most powerful cards in the set as well for what he does. And we did lament, I get a bit triggered around 6-star Headmasters. So prior to actually putting Crash Bash on the board, I've had to print a second copy of Crash Bash, because both of me and Claire really like it. So we have to play, it's quite often we're both using him. So we've got like a paper one and the really nice plush one that Mike Santino sorted out for me. This Crash Bash does have that inbuilt answer, and it's really good. That's it's a kind of like foresight, as it were. It's like Countdown could be really horrible if we don't kill him. Like you said, there are answers in the Wizards cards, but Crash Bash, you look at him, he's just really efficient anyway, because he's effectively a 6 attack guy if you build your deck right.
Yes.
Correct. But the other side of him, which I don't think Claire's caught on quite yet how powerful that is, because it's like, oh, you got a Brave Guy, I'm just gonna circumvent that now by not KOing you, and the damage is gonna go over here. So I think that's really cool. Like, last line of defense for me, like, I've played it a fair amount, and bearing in mind we do the whole like Wild West thing to some degree in our house, where we build from everything. Like, you definitely, I think, when you do your crossover with the Arc thing, and I know you guys are already on it, because me and you've already talked about this, but there are certain cards from the Arc that really make Omega Supreme very, very hard to kill. And I found that when I found that against them. Obviously, so. Yeah, and like you said earlier, they developed independently of you. So, the stuff like their HM laser cannon, resilience, their triplating and stuff, like, it's just a beast. For me, like, when I got my promo Omega Supreme, I was like, yes, he's amazingly crap. And to actually have him on the board kicking ass, like let's face it, Omega Supremes shouldn't be rubbish.
Absolutely not.
He's nails, and he should be feared. So I think last line of defense really, really is fantastic from that aspect. But I do definitely think, you've already said, it's one of those top-end cards in the set. It is a top-tier card. But if you know how to beat it, it's not infallible, but I just think you have to bear it in mind, particularly listeners, if you're looking to play casually. I don't think last line of defense is a casual card. I don't think it is. But it needs to be done. He needs to be better. Much like Heed the Call needs to be made for Metroplex from Alpha Triumph Protocols. the big boy needed help. He got it. And like you say, Linchpin's countdown, kill countdown, that damage movement becomes a lot slower.
I like all of them. It's great. I think it's just it's like you say, Dave. Like certain things trigger me, and I think it was one of those decks where it's just like, I think when everyone has said you know cross pollination of things can be a bit crazy, that deck definitely shows you, well, if you take the best cards from certain sets and also some other fun stuff that Wizards has done, it definitely shines. And it makes a turd incredibly great. Like, it was amazing. it polishes it up.
Polishes it nicely.
It was a ruddy good turd after that. I'll tell you.
It's a bit like polishing a diamond, right? Where you add just enough pressure and just enough of buff to make that make that thing really shine, but then you add a bunch of other buffs on top of it, and suddenly you're dealing with a broken crystal. So, yeah, it's like that. In order to, I would say card design in general, even when you're dealing with like an isolated set of cards, like your own cards, you're pushing and pulling to the point where it's optimized for your experience, at least in the tournament format. We try our best to, obviously limit those because we want to have nice, good, engaging, competitive gameplay. We don't want to, there are definitely people, I would say, in the tournament scene that are definitely biased for various reasons against certain cards, and I've definitely seen where people make decisions where they put certain cards on ban lists just because they just don't like them, and I think that's fine, but I think you're probably gonna be able to justify it a bit better with players if you actually have a decent reason to sort of back it up. Like, there was a lot of buzz on the Bayformers server before Encounter 2 about basically the impact of a couple of different ATP stratagems, notably Unbreachable and High Speed Chase. Those two were seen as very sort of high octane cards, high potential, high value cards, and just people were forecasting that, that might lead to some very NPE experience, non-negative player experiences in the tournament. And we actually, we sort of slowed down, and we just put a lot of thought and playtesting and work into it, and really talked to people in ATP about it, and got some opinions, and we were in different places for both those cards where we're just like, well, maybe we'll just allow both and see how things play out in the tournament scene. And then we kind of flipped over to the other side. We're like, well, maybe we'll just ban them both for different reasons. And then we arrived at the point where we put Unbreachable on the ban list for Encounter 2, and we left High Speed Chase after a flurry of Minosaur test games where we looked at the results and said, you know what, I think we can let it go.
Let it go, let it go.
You learn as well, don't you, by results as well. So you're going to have a better idea after this event what needs to be looked at in future. What's much like they've done with, they've been very hot on banning certain cards. Recently they banned Mission Briefing, didn't they? So
yeah.
Which is really, really cool to see that they're examining stuff, and that's something that you guys I know you're going to take on board as well. So that's cool.
Yeah, there's a process for it, and we try to be as fair-minded and as unbiased as we possibly can without completely throwing out the notion that we probably should be biased about some things just because that's just the way that decisions are made. I think if a decision point is reached where a particular creator group needs to make a decision about which crossplay cards to include in their event, they should probably favor their own cards, their own solutions that they came up with. I think they deserve that.
Absolutely. That's it. And, we're still not 12 months into the community created content being played as well. So, like, it's still early days for a lot of content creators and how stuff's going to interact at tournament level, So, yeah. I like it. I like the fact that you're encouraging it. And I think it's a learning process for everybody. Ultimately, when you sit down at a tournament, like, I don't play a lot of Transformers tournaments, but I have played a lot of X-Wing and I played a lot of Magic the Gathering. And there's nothing worse than sitting down against, like, the deck that everyone hates playing against, and it's just like, oh, really?
Yep.
And that's something that obviously we can identify as time goes on. because I know we're in it for the long haul. I know you are, Adam, and I know ATP are, and the art. You know, we're all in it for the long haul. And we want this game to survive many, many years beyond it, and particularly when you're trying to build a tournament scene, you want it to not be negative for people, because you don't want it to be a Sky Shadow Scepter like every single like top 8. Oh look, there's 4 of them. You know, you don't. You know, and I've seen it in other card games. Like there's the Summer of Jace the Mind Sculptor in Magic the Gathering, which was just vile. Like no one wants to go to any qualifiers, and if you did, you either played him or you played it out they could beat him. And it's like, when something becomes that warping, you just it can be really negative. So it's really cool that you're looking at how you can curate your formats as well. And I like the fact you're flitting between lots of different community groups as well. You're like, okay, we're going to cross over this one, then we're going to have our own one and stuff. That's fantastic. Really, really cool to see.
I try to lift up the community as a whole, and there are interesting details in such an endeavor, but for the most part, that's going to be my goal. And the team agrees with me in that regard. We should try our best to be one community. It's not always possible, and conditions may exist to sort of not make that happen, but it's an ideal, and I think that's a good one to continue to drive towards.
So Lee, what's up next? What are we gonna do next? We've talked about creation and that. Are we ready for the quick fire questions?
I think so. I think it's time for Adam to unload his revolver into us. I feel like we've just like got an M80 and just like completely drained our saw and just we've run out of bullets. We need to reload. So Adam, is there anything you want to ask Dave and me before we get into some of the viewer questions?
Yeah, I want to talk about executioners in particular first. So before I preface my question, I just want to say that Marvel UK in particular was also a huge inspiration in World Strike development. And one of the sagas in Marvel UK was a story called Space Pirates, where there was basically there's a Quintesson invasion, and there's this one general named Gyrick who basically invaded Cybertron to try to take the Matrix away from Rodimus. And it was basically one of these sort of fights where Rodimus is really built up as this powerhouse guy that, even though he was a little unsure of himself, I accidentally killed Optimus, but he's built up as this guy who has the Matrix and is pretty powerful, but this executioner from the Quintessons comes and just destroys him and steals the Matrix from him while he's carrying the Matrix, and basically outsmarts Rodimus and RC at the same time, And I was listening to some previous podcast. I think you were calling him the guy that pulls the lever.
The lever guy.
They're actually
lever guy.
They're actually two different characters, but they're the same type of Quintesson. So what I wanted to ask you is why do you hate Executioner so much?
We don't. We just think he's got the best job ever. He just pulls a lever because that's all we saw in the movie. That's what we assumed it was, because it was like, obviously that's the most iconic thing when obviously we've seen the original artwork is on the spotlight, but obviously when you've blown that up, that's from the film. So the only thing for us casuals or anyone who hasn't read the UK comics or any comics, the first thing we immediately go is like, right, lever guy, tentacle bloke,
lever guy.
Grimlock's gonna show up, let's have a demolition derby, let's just punch the Sharkticon's teeth out, and like just nothing's gonna, just all the music, everything about the movie just screams that. But it's just, lever guy, because that's all he does. He does nothing else except pulls a lever, and then he's just like, oh, poor guy, he just dies, never mind. So that's all he does on a day-to-day basis.
just put a little ribbon on that at the end, and a bit of a spoiler. So we were definitely interested in doing more executioner type Quintessons in the future. We just decided to start with Gyrick because he was just this powerhouse guy that we wanted to feature. But we definitely also want to do the lever puller guy. So I would say that your discussions of the character might have some impact on the final form of that figure, so stay tuned.
Amazing. That's amazing.
What's the character called? Lever guy.
Yeah. Just to ask you a real question here. You guys have obviously spent a lot of time and resources and effort just to cover the Transformers TCG community. There's definitely a certain perspective from the creator side that tends to be a bit, I wouldn't call it necessarily self-serving, but we do think a lot about our work, primarily just because it takes a huge investment. Sort of from the outside, seeing all these creators work, and also at the same time being exposed to sort of the scene in the community, especially right after the game was canceled by Hasbro, and some of the fireworks that happened in the fan community afterwards. Sort of how do you see the future of the game sort of shaping up, where it comes to the sort of the player base that's still engaged, the sort of COVID environment where everybody's mostly playing online, having to print out cards rather than, or use something like Tabletop Simulator in order to play, and the proliferation of custom card content. Where do you see things going with the game, for the next year or so?
Dave, do you want to go, or do you want me to go?
You go, man. You go.
I think the game it's inspired people to have a creative outlet. I think, especially in a time where all of us have struggled, not just like businesses and whatever, just mental health has been such a key issue for a lot of people. And like, while this is happening, it hit us all hard when this game cancelled. Like, COVID was just about to happen, and then all of a sudden you take away everyone's love for this game. Like, couldn't have timed it worse, if you ask me. But I feel like it's just inspired a lot of people to get out of their comfort zone and create some fun stuff. And I feel like, there was some fireworks at the beginning, because I felt like, and I'll be very honest in this little bit here, I feel like everyone wanted to be the savior of the game. But that shows me that there's a ton of passion from people in the community that wanted to do that. And it's great to see that people, we as Dave and me call it, we are Switzerland, so we love everyone, but Dave and me also kind of see it as we hilariously call it factions, because I always think of wrestling all the time. Like, we've got people from who are doing ATP, we have the Arc, we have you guys as a faction, I would say, and it's good to see that people are trying out the cards. But there are people in the community that have said, and we had Christian on actually as well, who said he likes some of the card designs, but because of his competitive nature, he will always play ATP. He likes what the Arc are doing, he likes what other people are doing, but that's the set for him. And I think that's the best thing about the fan-created content, is you can pick and choose what you want to play with. Dave and me are just gluttons for punishment, and we just love to play everything. And it's just great to see that people have kind of like embraced us in open arms and said like, right, can you review our sets? Can you talk about us? Can we get on to the podcast? We'd love to talk to you guys. And we've kind of been a bit of a blessing, if you will, because we wanted to just bring this back as a voice for the community to basically keep the fire going, if you will. Because, it's people were still playing the game before people were like, we're going to create cards, we're going to do this, we're going to still do hangouts and stuff. And to see where it was at the beginning of COVID, where we weren't so sure what was going on, to see like pretty much like what it is now, where we're several fan sets in, there's there's so much stuff out there, and there's sets that Dave and me haven't even touched on yet. And like, we've got a hilarious back catalogue of stuff we need to talk to and people we need to interview and stuff. But at the end of the day, we're just two geezers who have way too much free time to talk about a card game about robots,
That was so British. Two geezers, isn't it,
bruv?
Two
geezers, mate.
In it, bruvna. In it, bruvna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is true. We absolutely love like what the community is doing. I've fully embraced the stuff that Hasbro never even thought of. Like we talked about it a little bit in this episode. Like the Unicron raid was phenomenal. Like Brian has done the Predacon solo mode. Holy, like, guys, if you have not played that, I recommend going and finding it, because I've still not beaten it, and I've taken some horrible shit lists to go, you know what, I'm gonna go and try and kick the Predacon's teeth in. Nope, they still kick my teeth in, and I'm like, what is going on here? It doesn't make sense. But it's great to see different aspects of the game that people want to explore and do phenomenal. Like, honestly, when everyone was like, oh, we're going to create cards, and the first, I can be honest, when someone said we're going to do a Unicron raid, the first thing that came to everyone's mind is, WTF, how are you going to do Unicron? This guy pretty much destroyed Cybertron at one point. Like, in the movie, this guy basically tries to make a pancake. Come on, seriously, guys, how can you make him balanced? But then when you play it, you're like, this feels so theme. This feels so right. And like the only way to play that is also themed decks, guys. You need to play Dinobots. You need to play, you know, like Hot Rod and RC and all the fun stuff. You can take the competitive decks and all that stuff, but that's boring. You know, it's not fun. Play theme. It's always more fun. But I just feel like it's going from strength to strength, and I think that shows as well with the competitive nature of the game, like how many people are playing in tournaments, like how many people are going out their way to still keep this game alive by creating cards, running tournaments, hanging out. You know, it's just great, and I think it's just going to go from strength to strength. And like it's not just you guys at Bayformers, it's like everyone, like, you know, obviously there's certain sets that will obviously stand out because they're like, oh, you know, this is such a big undertaking, but it's just the little guys as well, which Dave and me will say, we're not big fans of Beast Wars. Beast Wars! Yes, there's that clip. I had to get it in on this episode, but Randy's set of Beast Wars was phenomenal. Like, that show is just an acid trip. I can tell you now, if you watch it, I don't know what's going on half the time, but that set is a ton of fun to play. And it's just cool to see people have a creative outlet. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes in the future because, you know, we are the one and only. That's right. Podcast that does want to champion this game. And we'll be around for a long time when the dust settles, probably. When everyone's... Because I know some people are making sets and then taking a seat back. And I know people will constantly make reviews. And make sets even, sorry. But I think it's fun that people are having that creative outlet, and I think it's really, really cool. So, enough said. There's my rant. I'm off my soapbox. Dave, you.
No, that was great.
I think where the game's going, ironically, I think the cancellation of the game was possibly the best thing that could happen. Now, in retrospect, we're, 7 months, 8 months on? What I've seen is a community rally and say, nope, we're not done. We're seeing characters that we wish Wizards made being brought to life. We're seeing high quality sets coming out there. You know, the amount of undertaking for World Strike alone, it boggles me how you guys brought that to life. I think the game's in a really good place. Where I see it going, I think for the time being, I think local community bases are going to be fractured. I don't think you're going to see the levels of attendance when game stores are finally able to open, if they reopen. You know, I know a lot of businesses have had to unfortunately close due to this pandemic. I think you're going to see the future is online, and all the fan sets are free to print and play. So, we'll put some links in the description, won't we, Lee, for the links for the Bayformer set. Because it's all free to download, free to print. But I think, you know, where I see it going, I think, yes, the future of the game is online. I've been trying to encourage my friends that play Transformers to get online and come and play with us on a Thursday. We play most Thursdays online. But also, like I said earlier, the Bayformers community is very active. The TTS mod, Adam, isn't it? Is fantastic. Yeah. You know, what's been put on there, because previously I think Octagon was used a fair amount, but what Veryl's done for, and big shout out to Veryl actually for all the work he puts in to the TTS mod. There's everything on there, like every fan set, even my all arts that I made to save me money from buying multiple playsets of pt3 Tyranny is on there. You know, Veryl's done a fantastic job. So massive shout out to him. So yeah, I just see it going online, and the community's been so welcoming to myself, and you know, when I said it seems better than it was before. I'm now playing Transformers with people from all around the world, from Florida, Canada. You can play with people from Asia, all over Europe, all over my own country. You know, me and Lee, although we have met in real life, we don't live near each other, do we, mate? We live like a few hundred miles apart.
True.
So
it's like for you guys in the States, it's kind of like Frodo going from the Shire to Mordor. No, it's not that far, but it's a nice 3-hour journey. You know, that's what it is, pretty much. Almost.
Nothing's ever that long. It's the longest walk ever.
But no, I think that's where I see the future. Like online, with some really, really good teams pumping out some fantastic content. From where I see it, the people that want to play this game are not going to let it die.
Bingo. I think you nailed it.
Have you got any other questions, Adam, before we move on to the questions from the community?
I just have one. As a collector, I was a collector before I started playing cards, so do you have any toys?
I've got a couple. I had loads as a kid. Actually, the other day, it was really, really funny. We were going through some old photographs. Leah, I'm going to send it to you so you can actually put this up. There's a picture of me with a really, really dumb childhood grin on his face. I'm sat in the front garden or yard, whatever you want to call it, playing with my Transformers. It's around 1986, 87, because there's Rodimus priming Magnus in the shot. So I used to have a lot. I have two really young children. We don't have a very big apartment, so I don't have a lot of space for toys. I would dearly love to, Claire knows what I'm like. She knows if I started, I'd end up with everything. And that way madness lies. I've got a Kingdom Core Optimus Prime, and I've got the Combiner Wars Shockwave that was bought for me as a gift. They're kind of like my little nerdy part of my bedroom that I'm allowed to have, a little corner. So I don't have a huge collection. I'd like a huge collection, but I don't. Instead, I have every single official Wizards card because I hate money.
Clearly, we have a lot of affection in Team Bayformers for Combiner Wars Shockwave. So yeah, I feel you there.
For myself, I still have a few of my original toys. So I'm looking at my original Hot Rod that's on my Mini Mac in front of me. I've got a Skywarp somewhere, which I think is an original Skywarp. I got it at a car boot and was like, holy shit, this is a Skywarp. I need to own this. And the guy was like, yeah, it's a couple of quid. I was like, yep. So I just rifled through the bin for all the parts and got everything. So I was like, this is amazing. Obviously, with the new toy line, it's pretty amazing. Like my shout out to my good friend Dave Mann, who's probably going to listen to the show. He's a huge avid toy collector, like of the Transformers. He before lockdown happened, he bought me the new Scorponok round, and immediately I went like, holy shit, I need to own this at some point. So I'm currently saving up for a house. So my idea is I want that Scorponok to hold like my computer controllers or TV remotes, because that thing is just incredible. Like, if you haven't played it, it's the size of a small toddler, guys. It's ridiculous. It's insane.
It's the size of one of Dave's children.
It literally is. It's like the size of a 1-year-old. It's absolutely mad, Dave. But no, I think my favorite things I've ever got was thanks to my mum and my stepdad, actually. When they both retired, they went to a lot of antique auctions, if you will, and there was a ginormous geek one they went to, and luckily enough I had the day off, thank God, and they said go to this website, there's loads of Transformers on there, and I literally, my jaw dropped. I think for about £200 I got a steal. I got a Combiners War Devastator, a Combiners Wars Predaking, which did miss its feet, but I got them. I'm going to get them 3D printed so he can actually have feet, because at the moment he's got no feet, so it's really funny seeing him stumble around. But then I got the two original, I think they're called Masterclasses, when they have really deluxe figures, and it's the first one of Prime and Megatron as well, and it all came to like 200 quid. So I don't know how much that is for US. But the Prime is lush, and so is the Megatron. And as soon as I've get my own place, I know they're going to sit on my nice... I'm literally going to have a Transformers shelf. Because I've got like most of the comics, because growing up as a kid, I got all the Dreamwave, most of the IDW. I go back a way with comics, but I went through a phase of just getting so many comics, and then I went away. And then Dreamwave, before they went bust, they obviously had a really phenomenal run with so many cool reiterations. I think War Within was one of my favorite iterations of Transformers, because it was just a different look. Like Grimlock looked badass in that like whole saga. I think I got like an art print somewhere in my storage unit of that as well when I went to California, and I saw it in a comic book store, and I was like, I need to own this, and I need to buy a cardboard box or tube and basically take it back with me to the UK, because yes, I will pay extra shipping for it because I need this in my life. That's my collection so far. But yeah, I want a Scorponok, so maybe I just have to do a fundraiser for this podcast so people could get me a Scorponok. That'd be great. Hold the mixer and stuff. But yeah, there's so much good stuff. Like my friend D's really
GoFundMe for Scorponok. I love it.
But there's some really cool statues and stuff that people have shown me. There was a really awesome one of a bludgeon recently that my friend showed me, and I was like, I do not have £300, but if I did, that would go in my living room because that just is incredible. But I feel like that's a slippery slope, isn't it? I'm only going to get one of my favorite characters. 20 other models later, you're like, you know what? I think no, I just got to get all of them. And I feel like that's it with the card game as well. Like, that's what you went with, Dave, weren't it? You had to polish off all your cards. I'm not going to spend money on Windsweeper, and I'm not going to spend money on Octane or Octone. I'm a filthy casual, so I print those bad boys off. It's fine.
Piracy is a crime, dude.
It's not. It's a dead game. It's a dead game. It's not like it's fine. Oh, I love it.
That just reminds me of that old VHS, like, piracy is a crime. You wouldn't steal a handbag.
Yeah, you wouldn't steal a handbag. You wouldn't steal, like, someone's... Oh, what was it? It's just so many random bits. It's coming
you wouldn't steal a car.
Yeah, it's coming on the screen right now, all that hilarious, with that retro cool music.
I just hate money, so I had to finish it off. I had to. The thing is I got really good price on a lot of those SRTs once the game got canned. Like cards that were like $100, I got for a lot cheaper, like a third of their value. So I finished off mine for a reasonable price.
Isn't that the beautiful thing about this like conceit around super rare cards in fan sets, where it's like, it's not really rare because I just printed out all the cards in a custom card set, but this one is marked as super rare, and its stats are a little bit better than all the other cards in the set. So it's kind of like it's a super rare, but I just think it's kind of funny how, you know, rarity is sort of a trick we play upon ourselves, you know, in this new format, where it's not really, you don't really have any more trouble getting that card than any other card you print out, but it says SRT or it says CT.
So, yeah. Anything else, Adam, before we move on to the questions?
I think the questions deserve their time, so let's get to it.
Cool.
So this one's from Hunter Keelman. I believe you know this man. His first question is, what's your favorite fast food place? Very relevant.
That is very relevant, because I think I'm made out of fast food and Mountain Dew. Yeah, if you just basically point at a pile of fast food and Mountain Dew on a shelf, I'm like, hey, who took a picture of me? But yeah, fast food. I've been on a Taco Bell kick. I think that's mostly out of a mix of self-loathing and actual interest. Like, it's somewhat ironic that I'm into them, but yeah, I've been eating lots of quesadillas and burritos. It's funny that I'm into it at all, because we have some fantastic taquerias in California. Like, you know, some of the best. I guess, you know, I don't think we should call it Americanized Mexican food, because you definitely can't get a burrito as good as you can in California. California burritos are superior to Mexican burritos by a long shot, in my estimation. Just the confluence of different cultures and communities bringing a burrito, like a super burrito, like an actual California super burrito, is sublime. It's absolutely fantastic. But I still love really crappy fast food Mexican food. And yeah, I think Taco Bell is my current favorite, although I think I'm finally sick of them, so I need to move on to another one.
Dave, when you have gone to the States, then what would you say was your favorite fast food place that you went to?
Oh, there's two, and I went to California twice in quick succession. One was the turn of the century, you know, millennium. Went out there with my parents, and then I went back for my 30th birthday with Claire and some friends that grew up in California, and they went back there to visit friends. So we ate quite a lot of burgers, but I have to say my favorite burger whilst I was in California was probably In-N-Out, followed by the ultimate cheeseburger from Jack in the Box.
Those are quality choices.
Yeah, they were good. What about you, dude? Because you spent some time in America.
Shake. Shake Shack is the shit. Like, seriously.
Yes.
I will fight you.
Good choice.
I will fight you if you think Shake Shack is shit. I will fight you right now. I'll jump on a plane, be in quarantine for 2 weeks, and then fight you, and then get on the plane and be in 2 weeks again just to say I'm satisfied. No. I also quit. I love Dairy Queen. Like, there's no better feeling like just going out skating all day and then going, oh, it's like 1 a.m. What do you fancy? Dairy Queen? Yeah, that sounds good. Like, it's just Dairy Queen's like legit, like amazing. But I'm partial to Wendy's as well. Like, someone told me I had to try a Baconator, and I'm pretty positive that shaved 7 years off my life. So it's as bad as a kebab over here, Dave.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know, I kind of like kebabs.
Like, you haven't lived until you've had a doner kebab at 3 a.m.
Yeah, the elephant leg, as my American friends knows it. They go, oh, I'll have one of those elephant leg things. You mean a kebab, mate?
No, I was gonna say my favorite. I think my favorite food in the UK is probably either bangers and mash or Indian food. Like, I think those are my two big choices.
Bangers and mash is good choice. Good choice.
You need to have Toad in the Hole.
Fish and chips.
Come here. You have to have Toad in the Hole, mate. Toad in the Hole will change your life.
Yeah,
Toad in the Hole
that's good.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, but for us, one of our staples here in England is fish and chips. Like Friday night fish and chips.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It has to be fish and chips by the sea because it's fresher and it's a guarantee.
Well, I live by the sea. What a shame.
And it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal when I had fish and chips around your area, Dave. I was like, oh my god.
Do you put lemon or do you put vinegar? Do you put vinegar or lemon on the
vinegar
on the fish and chips?
If we're in a restaurant, it'll be a little dash of lemon. But if it's down the chippy, we have vinegar. Salt and vinegar, please.
Salt and vinegar. A lot of it.
Okay.
Bloody good time.
Good. I just wanted to make sure I was doing it correctly.
Fine, mate.
Yeah, you are. Depend. Put it all on. Right, moving on. It's another question from Hunter. Your favourite and least favourite card from BFA?
I'm going to try to give a different answer than I gave before because like I said, I think I have different reasons for liking Gilthor than other cards, but I wouldn't say that Gilthor is necessarily my favorite card. I think my current favorite this week is secret action called Reroute Enemy Vectors. It's a no pip secret action, and it's revealed at the beginning of the opponent's turn. So basically, what you do is you play it during your turn. The opponent's turn starts, and you flip it over immediately. And what it allows you to do is you name one of your characters on your team, and you name a enemy character on their team. And if the enemy character attacks that named character on your team, you take half damage rounded down from that attack. The reason why I really enjoy that card is because it's a secret action that plays in a way that really no other secret action has in the game at all. What it does is at least in my mind, at least to the reception that I've gotten from the alpha testing and beta testing community, is that really what it does is it sets up mind games. It really gives you the opportunity to mess with the other opponent with their sort of set out strategy. For example, the deck that I played a lot in Wave 4 was sort of like a Flame War, like Skydive, like Optimus Prime deck, where you probably have a pretty good idea how that's going to go down. You're probably going to go with Skydive first, maybe Flame War next, and then swing it with Optimus once you've had a chance to throw some cards on him. This sort of play order is very predictable, and it's effective, but there's not really a lot of tools as to sort of influence the way that basically that sequencing goes down. And so that's one reason I really like Reroute, because maybe it's a situation where most of the characters have already swung in for attack, and it's only two characters left on each side. One maybe the Optimus on the opponent's side, and maybe your RC, somebody relatively fragile on your side because of maybe you made a mistake or whatever. Maybe just optimized to play heavier cards in the beginning rather than at the end. But where the choice is, the value is really obvious. There's only one choice. Optimus is going to swing in for half damage no matter what he does, unless he finds some way to untap and somebody else to attack. But there's another aspect to playing that card where maybe you play it where the choice is a little bit more open, and it's basically up to the opponent to figure out why you made that choice, and whether or not you actually decide to go with the choice that the opponent gives you or an alternative, and sort of to figure out the reasons why that choice is, why that presentation was made. And I think that leads to very interesting gameplay. It leads to gambits and misdirection. And I think it's safe to say that there will be future secret actions that play that way, that play with the opponent's decision making. That's my current favorite card.
It's a really, really cool card. I think anything that changes like combat math as well, like they're just surprises as well. I think it's a really, really cool thing. I think another cool one is Turnabout Snare for me. I think Turnabout Snare. And I know you've recently dropped a 1.1 update, haven't you, as well, for some of the cards?
Yeah. If operationally the card doesn't act any differently than it did before. It was basically we wanted to ensure that all situations are covered as far as the interpretation of Turnabout Snare. Operationally it's still a swap. It's just a little bit more clear as to what it means when these sort of edge cases pop up, like OPBL being able to play stat pumps on flip. Are those still valid, or do those suddenly become reversed as well? And the answer is the way that the current 1.1 is worded, OPBLs, let's say for example, playing a Leap of Battle would still actually add 3+ attack. It wouldn't turn into +3 defense. It actually does help OPBL attack.
So it's a bit like a timestamp for MTG, for those MTG players out there. It's a bit like timestamp order.
Exactly. It's whatever happens at that moment in time. The worst card, I should probably state what that is. The card I like the least in BFA. I don't know. They're all my children. So basically, what I'm going to say is like, well, I don't like this son. He hasn't really fulfilled my expectations of what a good child should be. But if I had to pick one, let me think. I kind of hate Exhaust for a lot of different reasons, but it's not because of the actual card itself. It's more of the process in which I got to it. Like, I have some real trauma there, man. There's some real pain there. Like, that was not literal self-flagellation, but yeah, I feel the pain. I feel the pain of the scars. But I, to be honest, I really love that card. It was just a journey through fire to get to its final form. I wouldn't say I have any cards I hate yet. I think there are cards that probably their potential is yet to be completely understood. I think a card that I had a little bit of I wouldn't say resentment, but I was kind of worried about where it was going, was General Gyrick. General Gyrick is now getting some attention, and I'm really happy about that. But for a long time, I think I was a little puzzled to myself as far as like, people aren't really playing this card. I wonder if they see what's going on with him. And then now it's starting to get a little more attention, and I'm happy to see that.
The penny has dropped and people are starting to wake up. He's really cool, Gyrick. I think he's I think him and Drebsnik are probably next on my list to kind of like explore within the Quintesson faction, because I've kind of done Gilthor, I've done the Judges, and I want to try and explore all of it. So that's cool.
Gyrick in particular is very, very unforgiving towards Wild Teens, just because that understated first line is honestly very brutal against it. It actually plays really well against sturdy decks. In particular, if we're going to talk about crossplay, it does have an offset effect against a team that goes wide and maybe has a couple of sturdy characters. It's sort of like, well, it doesn't really matter because if you're sturdy, because I just took 1 health off you just by existing. Yeah,
that's a really, really cool, powerful effect. Lee, what are your favorite cards from, or your favorite card?
I feel like because I've used it recently in a fun challenge that we're kind of eventually hopefully bringing back. In our play groups on Thursdays, we've been doing a little bit of deck tech challenges between all of us, and I was given Matt gave me the opportunity to go, hey, try make Bombshell 2 Wave 2 work, Lee. We know you love that guy. Open Agenda was an auto include in that deck, and it did work. And I killed multiple things, and that deck is undefeated at the moment, and it hopefully will retire undefeated, because that deck is just, I don't know. I feel like in the test group when they saw it, they're just like, that is effing stupid how much card draw is in that deck. I was like, I know. I can almost kill a combiner. This is great. It's stupid. It's but it's good. I really like that card. I I feel like I haven't really had the opportunity to play a lot of the characters, but I really want to play the Sharkticons after seeing Dave's build of how fun they were. Like, it's like I want to mix it up a little bit and just add some of the Merc stuff in there as well to really try some different Sharkticon shenanigans out.
Our shenanigans are cheeky and fun.
Yeah, I mean, his shenanigans are cruel and tragic.
Which makes them not shenanigans at all, really.
Evil shenanigans.
I swear to God, I'll pistol whip the next guy that says shenanigans.
But yeah, I can't really say well, there is one stratagem I'm not a big fan of, and it gives me a Vietnam flashback.
You're dumb.
but I can't really say I don't really have like an unfavorite card at the moment because I haven't really played a lot of it. I feel like there'll probably be something that'll pop up, and then I'll just probably drop it on the Discord, and then the guys will be like, "Who the heck is this guy?" And then there'll be that one guy who's like, "I don't really like this guy."
He doesn't like you.
I'm sorry.
I don't like you either.
And just be like, "He doesn't like you either," and it'll be fine, and it'll work out fine. But yeah,
he seems a little bleeped up to me.
Yeah, I think it's a cop out, but. Yeah, there's yeah, I loved Open Agenda. If people haven't seen that card, you need if you want some card draw in your hand and some fun shenanigans, man, you get to do some scrying and loads of fun stuff.
It's in a lot of my decks now, Open Agenda. I think I ordered
17.
15 of it.
Oh, it was close.
15. Play set, 5 play sets.
5 play sets. 5
play sets. 5 play sets, casual 5 play sets. I don't know, for me, like, there's so many cards I like, and we've said some of them already. But I'm a blue player as well, so for me, Tetranite Micro Lining, I just absolutely love that card. Particularly when I'm running it with Trithyllium Platings and I just make people cry.
Yes, yes you do.
But no, it's a really good card.
I have Pierce 10, it does nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I like it, because my blue decks are safe again. But yeah, that's a cracking card. I don't have a least favourite. I like. It sounds rubbish. I like everything. It's all good.
So good.
But I do. For me, this is. It's just a personal thing. Crash Bash. And we've already touched on this. Like, I don't know if he should have been allowed to live in a world with Fangry and Horrible. But it's not because I don't like Crash Bash as a card. I think he's a great card. He's fantastic. He's versatile. He does a lot of stuff that the other 6-star ones don't do. But one of my fears prior to seeing the results of World Strike, the Encounter 1, was the 4-head thing. There was one deck, wasn't it? It was Crash Bash, Horrible, Fangry, and then Top Shot, if I recall.
I played that deck.
Yeah. I was like, this shouldn't be possible. It's wrong. It's not natural. And there you go. That's my thought. That's my thoughts on Crash Bash, and I think we'll leave it there.
Yeah, and that deck did not win, so that was
it did not.
I'm very happy to announce that deck did not win. So I'm happy to say that, because yeah, I mean there's been a lot of discussions about that particular combination. And I think the reason why it didn't win is because they just don't play as well together as it seems on paper. I very much wanted Crash Bash to live in the mixed or blue realm of existence, and Fangry, you can make the argument that Fangry has tough too when he defends against a enemy that has fewer stars than them. I'm like, well, how often do you actually see Fangry actually ever flip to that mode? Most of the time, people put him in an orange shell.
Fangry doesn't flip. He's just got one mode.
To be fair, he has his body mode, or he has alt mode, and he has his head mode, which turns into a little friend.
This is true.
That's the modes that he has.
This is true.
But I very much wanted to make sure that Crash Bash did not live in that degenerate 6-star body orange black shell. I wanted to make sure that he did not operate well in that paradigm, even with different heads. He just wasn't optimized for that kind of play, and that's why you see these decks like Exhaust Crash Bash do well, because they play towards what Veril calls clown vomit. Just the orange, blue, orange, blue, black, green, everything. Colors that you've never even imagined.
He's really good. Lee, did you want to do the next question?
Yeah, so this is from Anthony Woodward. He says, please press him on why LLOD exists. I'm not convinced he's aware of the problems he's created.
You're dumb.
Yeah, that button does get pressed a lot. Luckily, we've reinforced the button with some high quality rubber and polymers and a nice top side that fits the finger very because people are just slamming on that button 24/7. No, it's a bit of a meme at this point. But LLD is last line of defense, the promo Omega Supreme strat that gets hate from people that don't play the card very much, and then it's accepted as like somewhat irrational as for people that played against it a lot. But yeah. It was designed to be strong. It is strong, and 1/1 passed, and we didn't nerf it. So I think we're good.
I'm smiling a little bit, but also I still let a bad taste in my mouth. Just kind of like Crash Bash for Dave, so it's fine. I've had some interesting games against you. That one, the Galvatron one, oh my god, it just keeps getting hilarious. Like the one time I've not really been playing Transformers, and Dave's like, I've got these really cool decks. He's like, I'm just gonna hit you for 17. I'm like, so that's Magnus dead. That's great. Like, what am I doing with my life? Like, seriously, come on, have some casual fun games, and like Galvatron's running rampant right now over here. I love it. It's good. We always have some banter.
I'm sorry.
It's fine.
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
It's banter.
I'm not
It's
sorry.
it's definitely a Stone Cold Steve Austin moment.
It is. It
Definitely.
definitely is. Yeah, at some point, I've had my revenge a little bit.
Yeah, I think we talked enough about Last Line of Defense. I think it's a good card. I think it needed to be there. I think it's just about how, like you say, Adam, how you face it, and if you know you're going against it, or it could be a thing. Make sure you've got answers, and that's all you really need to do. It's like any other meta choice, isn't it?
It's 100% true. One of those answers is also alcohol. Just have a bottle ready, because it's a learning experience.
or just refuse to play Dave ever again. That's
just
fine.
Refuse to play Dave. That's so extreme. It's like, yeah, Dave, in a bit. I didn't rage quit. I just kind of just laughed. It was like, this is insane. This is insane.
It was really good.
Well, if you punch yourself in the face first, it doesn't hurt later.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
You
this
get
is
punched
true.
again. It doesn't hurt as much.
I tell you what it's like. It's like you're in a fight with someone and they're punching you in the face, right? And so what you go and do is you punch yourself in the face.
All right, so what if he's not... I'm having a fight with this fictionary man, and he's not punching me hard enough in the face to make me go mental and win.
Let's do an experiment, Barry. We'll have a fight right now, right? And when you start losing and you're not doing very well, you punch yourself in the face, go mental and start winning. Show them how that works.
I'm not going to punch myself in the face.
Why not, Barry?
So we got a couple of questions left before we wrap up. So Matafer, our friend from the Canadian Alps, has asked a similar question. So I'll give you one more opportunity to talk about another card maybe that you love and the reasons why from the set. So what were your other favourite cards, sort of pet projects that you love and the reasons why?
I think just to pull out another card that certainly got a little bit of discussion in this podcast. One of the wordier cards in the battle cards was Discordant Cacophony. There was the Noise Maze secret action, which has a ton of different qualifiers, but if you remove the qualifiers and you obfuscate them into, say, names, the word names is actually pretty simple. As long as you don't pay attention to the list of names, the actual way that it operates is fairly simple. Basically, the whole gist of it is, if you're in a situation where multiple characters are untapped and one of them swings, you can basically choose that one not to swing, and the other one does. That one's actually kind of thematic to reroute enemy vectors, where the opponent is being forced to play out of sequence. Maybe they have a Flame War they were looking to swing in last, and now they're being forced to swing in with Flame War first. I think that sort of gameplay just is very interesting, giving the opponent basically the opportunity to play out a sequence and also have cards which may help out that sort of situation. Maybe packing in a bit more bold or tough or armor onto characters which they're kind of hoping to have hide in the back, but they're being forced not to.
Yeah.
And forcing them to protect those characters if they're going to be indeed swinging with them. So having those options out, I think, provides for more unpredictable and more interesting gameplay, despite the wordiness of the card. And to the point of wordiness, I think some creators are definitely fans of this sort of approach, because some fans see it as a forecast of things to come, and that's one way that these sort of lists are often presented. For example, if we look at something like Assuming Control, then people look at the appearance of Mega Empress on the list, or Dr. Arkaville on the list, as being spoiler alert, possible future cards, right? The thing is, maybe we do those cards. Maybe we are indeed, sort of protecting our design space there, and maybe we're not. Maybe we're just throwing those out there as just sort of random references that just happen to match that particular theme. I know that there are definitely other creators that are in our circles that are not fans of that approach, because it just leads to more mind space. And my sort of response to that is that if you're going to be playing with a card a lot, you know exactly who it affects and what it does, and the effect itself is not that complicated, but the list is just kind of long, so it can read a bit burdensome at the beginning. So, but if you understand that there's a certain list of characters that this affects, and it leads to this particular ability, then it's not that difficult after all.
Yeah, we commented that when we review. We're like, there's lots of words, but like it does really boil down to it's a list, and if your character's name is on that list, then you get to do this. So it's not, like you say, it's not complex. It just is a bit like whoa when you first see the card, and I think that comes from a lot of them like share a lot of common thematic traits that weren't ever made traits from a gameplay mechanic sense. So that's where you've like, well, thematically these guys should be able to do this. Like, Are These Wires Important's another one, isn't it? That has a list of characters.
Yeah, I feel as well, because you've teased some characters. There's a specific judge you've teased, and if you don't bring out that card, I feel Dave and myself, who have read comics and how much of a douche that guy is, probably we'll have some serious words at him. I'm just saying is all, mate, because if you bring him out and if he's on the power, we say on the curve as some of the Quintesson judges, I'm excited to play him. Like, dude, he'll be insanely awesome.
The funny thing about Tyrest is that he does have an alt mode. Apparently it's some sort of aircraft, like a jet fighter, but you don't ever see him transformed. So there's really sort of no way to know what he looks like. Personally, I find that sort of challenge good. That's a design challenge, a conceptual challenge that I'm happy to approach. As far as approaching Tyrest, you would need to be able to figure out what that alt mode is and come up with something that looks like his robot mode. And I think that's cool and awesome and a fun opportunity to bring to life. That's the challenge around bringing Tyrest to life, but also all the fan expectations. Like, you take one of the guiding hand and bring it to life. People are going to be expecting something truly epic.
True.
I can't wait to see what you've got in store for us later day. Tyrest is just mental in the books.
He's a maniac.
He's loony. He's a loony, isn't he? He's a loony bruv. He's all over the shop.
Well, now that custom cards are printed, we could potentially have some abilities which allow you to sort of exploit the medium in which the cards are printed. So let's say if you print it, and maybe the card says explicitly, "Do not print this on a real card. Print this only in copier paper." And then in order to activate the actual ability, you have to take a pencil and poke a hole into its Tyrest.
That's so.
And the
cool.
more holes he has in him, the more attack damage he has, or the more epiphanies he has. I don't know what that means.
Literally, that'll be taking design to a whole nother level, and I love it. It'd be awesome. Right. Okay, moving on to the final question by Christian Young. He says, how do you get sponsors for a TCG that isn't officially supported? Cool, but definitely curious how that works. Love that question, Christian. Love that question.
See, I think the important thing to bring out is that it's all about money. It's about making money. It's about counting money. It's about counting your YouTube bucks. I know you guys are rolling deep in the YouTube bucks. It's about the sponsorships. That's where the cheese is, and I'm all about just swimming in that deep, deep content creation cheese. And when those two sponsors came to talk to me, I was just like, hey, can we do business? And we did. And I made mistakes. And I paid for my mistakes, and the team, I don't know if they'll ever forgive me, precisely for denying them all that beautiful, content creation bucks. But we'll get through it, and I hope that everybody was entertained by the very public mistakes that we made.
So good. It's quite ironic. Recently, I've actually picked up a sponsor for the Hustlers, actually, a UK store that are offering 10% off. When you use the code that I bring up on my video at the end, and so it's quite funny to see that 2 days ago. But yeah, it was hilarious, man. I was like, is this for real? And then oh, it's the 1st of April. Oh,
brilliant.
Oh, it's still April 1st over on the other side of the world. Yeah, right. Forgot about that.
I love it. So what was it? Just so people who didn't catch the inside joke on the April Fools.
Like I said, April Fools is one of my favorite holidays because I'm a terrible person, and and I get to be a terrible person once a year, and the rest of the year I have to play as a very nice, community-minded person, and I'm bad. I'm sorry. But there is a spoiler coming up related to the April Fool's stuff. We do have a promo coming up in the next few days. It's more of an Easter promo, but if you remember the promo from Christmas that we did,
the aspect of laughter, which was shall we say very holiday themed, and you can expect something very similar to that. We're hoping to have something rolling out here in the next couple of days, so something to look forward to, and get those cards printed, and you should hopefully have an egg-tastic time. I'll just say that.
Love it. Okay, so with that being said, guys, that is another episode in the books. It has been, again, it's been a bit of a long one, but it's also been a really enjoyable one because I think Dave and me really enjoy reviewing the sets, but it's also cool getting the design aspect from behind the scenes. It's really interesting because every time we seem to have a designer on, we learn something new about dabbling into design and what challenges, what unique ideas people have had and stuff, and it's great. And Adam, I just want to thank you from myself. I bet Dave's going to say thank you as well, but for coming on this podcast. This is your chance to blurb out everything that's coming your way for the Bayformers. Go on, sir. I'll even put some fancy music in. Here we go. Tell the world what you're doing.
So I will say that the letter after BFA is BFB. There's one thing that we focused on during the development of BFA is that we did not want to introduce any new mechanics in the game. We just wanted to introduce a new faction that had interesting, novel ways to play, but very much stayed within the boundaries of what Wizards and Hasbro put into the game. For BFB, that is going out the window. So, as far as BFB is concerned, we have Encounter 2, which is our current BFA tournament, but one of the features we have for that is that some of our players also have alpha decks on the side. So, if you watch Encounter 2 and you want spoilers as to what's being cooked up in BFB, I recommend that you watch some games. You might see something you haven't seen before. So there's some limited spoilers for BFB in Encounter 2, but we're really looking forward to starting the public beta for BFB within the next couple months, and there's a very good chance that you might see the ARC Bayformers collaboration go live before then. So it's a huge big time for us in T Bayformers. We're really, really excited about what's coming. We expect the game to change in very drastic ways. I would expect the unexpected, and I don't think the game will be played quite the same way when we're done. Hopefully, at least in our little meta, in our little corner of the game, we expect the game to be very different after this. So, look forward to that.
Wow. Okay, that is an atom bomb. That's another tactical nuke, I think. Dave's just dropped there.
Tactical nuke!
Nuke incoming!
Just the Wastelanders now returned after that casual spoil.
Yes. I think that's very apropos for you to say. I think it's safe to say the wasteland is before us.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, I like it.
Hope it doesn't involve Tom Hardy at all. More Mel Gibson. That's all I'm saying. Right, with that hilarious bombshell, Dave, what have you got coming up on your channel?
Just the usual, but looking at some more Tournament Tuesday stuff. Doing some live alpha testing. Well, no, it's not live. It's recorded live, but we're doing some alpha testing of the set that I'm working on as part of the collaboration with you and the other members of our little community that meet up. So next week we have stratagems for General Megatron and for Raider Skytread. So they're going on the channel. Both quite pleased with where they are. They're quite fun to play with without making either of them oppressive. Skytread needs a fighting chance, so it's interesting. If you like Raider Skytread, have a look at the video that's coming out next week. Really just working on testing with our group at the moment. That's kind of taken a massive part of my time, sort of designing and playtesting. So we've just been alpha testing sort of on the channel and off the channel. So regrettably, it's not something I wanted to do, but I've had to drop down to one video a week because I just can't put out the content and test and see my children and my wife and do all that. So it's a bit quieter from what's coming out, but it's just gonna be more of the same. It's just gonna be spread out a little bit more. What about you, mate? You've been a busy bee. You're playing a new game. What madness is that?
Flipping, mate. Everyone should download Faria. Faria is a phenomenal game. I don't even have an endorsement by them. It's just a great game. I'm enjoying that. So Faria Fridays is a series where basically if you like Magic the Gathering, you like board games, and you like, it kind of feels a little bit like Hearthstone. Yeah, that's what I'm doing every Friday. It's basically just building decks and having a little bit of fun and just trying some fun stuff out. When this goes live, you'll probably go and be able to check it out. My second episode of Imperial Assault drops. And there's a famous Wookiee that's in it, and he kicks ass and takes names, literally. I didn't think he was that good. I was wrong. Enough said. On that front, he was very, very good. But Transformers-wise, yeah, we've got some stuff brewing. And leading on to a fun segue, the next podcast we're doing, obviously, we stated a few podcasts ago, we are going to be reviewing Alpha Trion Protocols, obviously 3. We're going to do that eventually, but Dave and me and a few other people, we have an announcement to make, and it's going to be a fun little podcast. We're just going to talk about what we've been working on behind the scenes, kind of like the Quintessons, if you will, Adam. We've kind of been working in the shadows, taking notes and figuring out some fun stuff.
It's exciting. It's exciting because it's not just a set. There's something else coming as well, guys. So keep your ears peeled. We've got some big names within the community that are involved with us as well. So yeah, it's gonna be cool.
It's gonna be a ton of fun. So now we're gonna put Adam on the spot. Because I know he's a regular listener. So we're gonna do our famous goodbye, Adam. Are you ready for this, Adam? So you can be part of podcast history. So it's a goodbye from me, Lee.
It's a goodbye from me, Bilmu. Adam.
That's a goodbye from me, Dave, the Energon Hustler. Thanks everyone for listening. Lee, I'm going to let you do the rest because I can't remember the whole spiel. Mate, you just put me on the spot. I'm 5 beers in. I'm like, what am I supposed to do?
If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a like. A like is much appreciated. Comment below. Tell us your thoughts. Tell us what you're enjoying about the Bayformers. And also, if you want to subscribe, subscribing is awesome. Go check out the Bayformers. Link is in the description. All that jazz. And without further ado, that's another episode of One Shall Stand, One Shall Fall. We'll see you for episode 23. Oh, I'm spent.
One shall stand, one shall fall.